Captain Supermarket.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 3rd of October, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Not ill again yet.
Ooh. And Robert Kemp.
It's a bit ominous, isn't it?
Well, basically, the plague child has visited our house again.
The plague child.
And it got Dad, but it hasn't got me yet. So
The vector.
How did you... Wait, so your dad has had it twice?
well, it's a different one.
A different plague. Plague 2.
Yeah.
Plague 2, the plaguening.
So that's fun. Hopefully I might not get this one, though, because it's a let's describe it as a more digestive disease than a flu kind of one.
And respiratory.
I mean,
That one should be possible to avoid.
I mean, did he eat part of the child? Is that... I mean, are there many, like, I don't know, digestive problems that you could just catch? Like that? Like, by being next to someone with something?
Well, it is a child we're
bugs.
talking about. There's a lot of gunk just flying everywhere.
They produce a lot, and it does tend to spread itself around.
Maybe you like it or not.
So where is this rugrat picking up all these diseases?
Well, I assume that it must be now interacting with other children on a more regular basis.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then, of course, that's just how disease transmission happens. By children.
Yeah.
I mean, if schools and COVID are anything to go by.
Yeah, that's why they're jabbing up all the teenagers, aren't they? Are they doing that now? Or,
Jabbing them up.
or not? Jabbing
I mean,
up.
does that actually stop the spread? Or does it just stop the teenagers from feeling so bad? Like, is it actually...
I think it does do something. I think it does more than nothing.
I guess it kills it quicker if it's in you.
Well, I think the last thing that I saw, not that I've been paying attention, is like the time during which you're actually likely to transmit it goes down from like the whole 2 weeks to like 4 days.
Okay, so
So
something. Yeah, yeah, because that was what I was
getting
curious about.
conflicting information on this.
It's because
I
no
read
one's
somewhere
paying
that
attention any longer. That's
If you have like, if you're double vaccinated, and it's still working right, then you have like 90% protection against infection. Well, I read somewhere, which is way better than I thought. I thought it was just like
that sounds too high.
Yeah. In fairness, I thought it was in the high 10s.
Yeah,
like
sure.
80 or something. But yeah, presumably if you get it, like there's still a contagion window because it's still like you've got it and your body still has to fight it off a little, even if it doesn't get rooted, I suppose.
Presumably.
But who knows?
Well.
Everyone's given up paying attention and they're just hoping it's going to be all right, which, judging by the graphs, is maybe not 100% going to happen. Let's hope we don't have to shut down by Christmas again.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, Christmas is in trouble just because they can't bloody deliver anything like petrol or like food or anything that you actually need.
Or electricity, apparently, at this
Or
point.
electricity, yeah.
Wait, that comes in trucks now?
No.
Well, what's going with electricity? The Russians can't be bothered to pump us any gas, right? They're like, sod you.
We need this.
Fair enough for being reliant on Russian gas.
But surely if the prices of gas are so high, the Russians want to get rid of it.
It's not quite how supply and demand works. If there's not enough supply, it doesn't matter how much demand there is.
But they could supply us more and make more
sure.
money. But they're being like,
No,
apparently it's like...
Well, you need to create extra artificial demand and bump the price even higher. That's the trick. That's capitalism.
And also they've got one pipeline to Germany and they've got a second pipeline like already built and they need to like leverage on the Germans to actually open it. Nord Stream 2 or whatever. So they're like, even though they could make money by selling them more gas through the first pipeline, they're like, no, we're not going to do that until you let us open the second pipeline.
We want you to open the other thing that we've spent ages building. Like, why not? It's ready to go, guys. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. then we can have even more political leverage over the entirety of Europe by controlling their entire energy supply.
Yay, Russia.
What we need is some wind. Get the wind going. and then
I mean, it's been a pretty windy week. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I've had to rescue things in the garden.
That'll help. Because apparently it wasn't windy for a while. And that was a problem. So hopefully we'll get our wind back.
Did they not go to Manchester's Curry Mile?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a wind farm nearby there. That would probably be an effective method of generation.
There's probably some thermodynamics at work there as well.
Yeah.
It's a hot wind.
So have you got petrol in your tanks?
Actually, yes.
Wow.
We've got pretty much a full tank in the Beamer. We lucked out on that one, and or I should say, we lucked out once. And for another moment, Nome has a intricate supply network of bus drivers with the school
School bus drivers.
Yeah, who are in the know.
They got a black market in diesel. Surely it'd be what would they know about the petrol? I don't know.
Well, I guess they'd have to fill up a bus somewhere, so they know.
Yeah, I suppose it's all the same. Because that's the thing. There's plenty of fuel, right? They just can't deliver it. That's the issue at the moment.
Well, wasn't there some scaremongering happening like a day or two ago where they were like saying, "Oh, actually, no, we are kind of running out."
I mean, this whole thing is scaremongering. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that was how it started, but I thought even well, unless it's the fuel companies just getting in on the act, going, "Oh, you know what? This is actually not bad, is it?" They're like, "If we just carry this
more
on,
money."
Yeah.
What, by charging artificially more for the stuff that they have plenty of?
We can also sell more oil and stuff to the plastic industry because they're going to have to make more cones to stop people from going into petrol stations.
Not sure that's going to be much of a market.
They must have seen this one coming, though. It's like, surely it is, not to get political, but it's definitely Brexit, isn't it? They knew they were going to have less lorry drivers, less people, and also for Christmas turkeys, they'll have less people to, like, kill turkeys and things like that. They'll just have less people.
It's not in any company's best interests to do much in the way of importing to or exporting to us, so they do less of it.
Yeah, but we don't have labour right here where we need it, like for that sort of thing.
That too. It's funny because you've been seeing those, like, okay, yeah, we're getting into this now, but we saw that.
That's not too much.
Yeah, no, I saw that thing going around where it's like pretty much anyone in the country who has an HGV license has been sent a letter saying, "Please come back,
please, we need you."
And it's like,
because
I know quite a few hauliers, like, and like through a few friends, friends, then end up turning up on my Facebook. So then pretty much all of them were like, "Ha ha, no, you need to sort out.
I'm not going back.
You need to sort out the haulage companies for anyone to come back." And it's like they got out for a reason, not.
What are they doing now out of interest? That sort of anecdotally, people you sort of know through Facebook, when they got out of doing that.
Well, I don't know what most of them are doing, but one of them, shout out, is you know who you are if you listen, which you don't, which is fine. Is retrained as be a legal person, like going for soliciting.
No related topic at all.
Yeah, not at all. Totally retrained, not on his own.
Excellent. Well, good for him. Or her, him, presuming.
I said that on his own, so yeah, I gave it away.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
I don't know what the actual terms of like legal positioning is. Is it paralegal first or something, and then?
I don't know that stuff.
Many layers.
But I don't think that's why we haven't got any PS5s, is it?
No,
I think there isn't enough supply of that. It's not delivery.
No, that's. Oh, I've watched several of videos about the whole chip shortage thing, and I can never really remember the detail. It's like the only thing that's popped into my head when you said that was China.
China. Well, it's Taiwan, isn't it, where they make the chips? Well, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of area, isn't it? Like, but I think it's because every company under the sun has outsourced now.
Yeah, well, it's very
to the same group of companies,
integrated.
And that same group of companies are now struggling, and it's
the chip foundries.
Yeah,
that one in Taiwan is the only one that can do the super low nanometer process or whatever. There's like one factory in the whole world that can do it.
Even Intel outsourced, didn't they? And although Intel are one of the few companies that have actually said, "Oh, right, we might have messed up," and have got plans to actually start building stuff in Arizona, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
So they'll bring it back to the US. No, not completely, and also that's years away.
That's the thing. It takes such a massive investment over so many years to get up to speed with one of these chip foundries. Yeah, and like the more high tech it gets, like because the smaller the nanometer process or whatever, the more upfront investment there is to even get it just running.
Yeah, because not to get ahead of the news too much, like. I wasn't going to mention this anyway, to be fair, but Xbox has come out and said, "Yeah, don't expect the Series X situation to improve. Like, we have absolutely no idea when it's going to get better. Like, Series X's are still going to be hard to find in 2022."
See, I think it's a similar thing with these batteries for electric cars. Not quite as high tech as the chips.
No, but we could run into the same problem there, right? Because everyone wants to buy them from Tesla.
So this is why Elon Musk is the richest man on the planet. It's nothing to do with SpaceX or anything, and it's not because Teslas are the best cars in the world, although I'm sure they're fine.
They're pretty good.
It's because he's invested in this battery manufacture stuff, and these gigafactory things, and they're just going to be ahead of everyone else. And when all the other manufacturers are making electric cars, they'll be buying them off him, and Panasonic or whoever else he's partnered with.
Other conspiracy theories about the fuel shortage is like, the government's going to struggle to hit that, like, all electric cars by that whatever date they said, like 2030 or something. They set themselves like the target to be like, oh yeah, we don't want any like fuel cars by then.
And it's not very long, is it?
No, it really isn't. It was some. Like, it was some, I can't remember, I don't know if it was 2030 or what, but it was some year where I looked at it and think, that's not that far away, really.
No.
And it's, so, conspiracy theory, this is all a play to make everyone think, oh, if only I had an electric car, then I wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, except that the Russians aren't giving us enough gas to make electricity so we can charge up our electric cars.
Exactly. That's the other problem. If everyone did switch, it's like nothing would be ready. Like we'll be boned in a different way.
Yeah, need to get that Sizewell C up and running. Which I guess they're doing, right?
Yeah.
That was a big deal in Suffolk when they built Sizewell B back in the whenever it was, 80s. So I imagine there'll be a lot of jobs and things building that thing.
I hope they don't. Well, it depends where they build it. It's like because
next to the other one.
Yeah, I guess. Because there's like they'll probably ruin the park run course that's right there.
Oh no! Probably, yeah.
Outrage. I went to see that Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, that seemed like a full stop. I'm just gonna hijack.
No. I'm curious because I haven't seen it, and I can't decide whether I can be bothered to go to the cinema or whether to just wait.
It is good. I will say that it's.
Oh, that's good.
It's I'm not sure it's as revolutionary as everyone seemed to like. Like I don't know. I got that feeling from the internet that it was just like, oh, this is amazing. This is like
really,
yeah. I kind of got that vibe. Like everyone seemed to be like sort of swooning over it, and it's like, okay, there's probably an argument for the whole representation in cinema thing. I'm not going to downplay that, but I wouldn't say it's a particularly overly inventive story. It's just a well-made superhero origin story, which I'm a bit of a sucker for. And it's a
mid-tier Marvel with some good aspects.
I'd say it's mid to high. It's decent. It's good fun. It's got some good jokes. It's some good effects. The
main reason I wanted to see it is because Awkwafina's in it, and I think she's really funny.
Right? Yeah.
So
no, she's good. I'm a bit of a sap for that whole styling anyway. The Oriental flair, and there's a little bit of the old classic kung fu film feel kind of thrown in, all the way from the choreography to the wire work in places. It's like it's got got that feel, and which is cool. Yeah, it's decent. It's worth it.
I watched Crouching Tiger the other day on Netflix.
Yeah.
Still like that movie. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's decent.
Yeah. It's not it's not like deep and profound
No.
or anything, but it's really well made and cool. About what I hadn't realized before is that and of course you wouldn't know as a Western audience, but it was made for Western audiences, even though it's quite authentic. And apparently, if you're Chinese, it's a serious problem that the actors in it have really different accents.
Oh,
like,
right.
You wouldn't know, but like one of them is like who's the main the guy is from Hong Kong, so he has a totally different accent. Obviously he speaks not Mandarin natively, but
you talking about is it Chow Yun
Cantonese? Fat? Yeah, Chow Yun Fat. He's from Hong Kong cinema, so he speaks Cantonese like Ho or whatever. So he's got a totally weird accent in Mandarin, and then Michelle Yeoh is not from China at all. She's from like Malaysia or something. So she's not a native Mandarin speaker,
right?
And then one of them, the baddie Jade Fox, I think she's from like Taiwan. So the actress. So the only one who has like a correct accent is the main girl,
right?
The young girl who actually has a Mandarin Han Chinese like accent. So apparently it's really weird if you're Chinese watching it because they have totally weird accents.
Yeah, because it's like none of these people would be here.
Yeah, because Michelle Yeoh can't speak Mandarin, so she was literally learned her lines phonetically, which is really weird. Huh. Yeah, but yeah, you wouldn't even notice. Well, I certainly didn't notice.
No,
but yeah, that's quite strange.
I mean, it's funny to say that, like, I don't know. Maybe it's weird from our perspective because everyone says, "What is?" When you say to someone, "What is the English accent?" and it's like, "Well, I don't know. Where, like, what part of England are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
I get a bit annoyed when people say there isn't an English accent, and it's like, well, there is. There's just several.
Of course, there is.
Again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but Zach and I were playing Halo Reach last weekend, and there's that bit where George talks to a survivor. And it's in Hungarian, and they're having a little conversation about accents, and it's like, I don't know, both these accents sound Hungarian to me. It's just
right. There's no such thing as a neutral accent in any language.
No,
I don't think
clearly not.
It's not possible. Yeah.
The nuance is just lost to outsiders.
I mean, I bet nowadays you could probably just like take a huge pile of speech samples and generate like an average accent.
Man, you probably could. Yeah. What would English average be?
It would be cool to generate accents but that's for distinctive Midlands, isn't it? It's not average, is it?
Yeah, that's average positionally.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the country. Yeah. I mean, if you took that for America, like most Americans live, I say most, but on the coasts, right, rather than in the center. The accent in the center would not be a typical American accent.
No.
Necessarily. Like Oklahoma or something. Yeah, but could you use an AI to create a regional accent for a region that doesn't exist? Or by combining...
That'd be so good. I mean, cool. If you English would be such a weird one, though, right? Well, especially weird because, like, what if you like interviewed people that had like foreign accents speaking English as well, and then mushed all those together?
Yeah.
Like get French people who speak English with a little bit of accent throw it in, and then you know, like, and then the Indians and the Japanese, and then throw them all in. I want to know what total English average is, but obviously you weight it. You weight it so like there perhaps fewer of those speakers in this
more
country.
native speakers.
Yeah,
maybe.
That would be great. I want to hear that. I'm sure it would be very weird.
There's this series of videos on YouTube. I think it's like Wired magazine, but like there's this one guy who comes on who's like a language, like an accents expert, and he's a vocal coach for Hollywood or whatever. So he teaches actors how to do it. but he's just very good looking and charismatic, and he's done like a whole series of videos for them, and he's basically holed up their entire channel as far as I can tell. This one guy who talks about accents, but they're really entertaining. But it's like, why doesn't he get his own channel? He could probably make loads of money out of YouTube because he's pretty good.
He probably makes loads of money already.
Oh, probably. That's true.
YouTube money probably is a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, that's probably true. But yeah. So look up that guy. I suppose you just have to search for like Wired accents or
Wired accent
coach or something. But the one guy, this one guy, and he's made all these videos. But yeah, I check that one out because that's kind of cool and kind of interesting. It's very hard. I find it hard to follow because he explains a concept of how the difference is, and then he actually speaks the different ways, but it's very subtle sometimes for me. Like I would have to like concentrate really hard to understand the differences of what he's saying quite a lot. Yeah. Because it's when you put all those things together that you get an accent rather than one feature.
It's not just a single letter, I guess. It's not like a single O. It's like it's tiny little things. I was wondering if like the future language or the future language variant in Cloud Atlas was technically weirdly accented or something like that, and like whether that was actually they tried to
I
come
guess
up
you
with
could
something.
get that guy not only to teach you how to do good versions of real accents, but also to like speculate on what a future accent might be.
Try and blend stuff together.
Yeah,
that's a true. Maybe not so much some of the language aspects of Cloud Atlas.
Yeah, that's more dialect.
Yeah.
Well, that's inspired presumably by like 1984, right? Where it's got the Newspeak.
Right, yeah.
Double plus good and all of that. When they try and because it's a dictatorship and they deliberately try and simplify the language people use so they can't express themselves as well, and they can't resist.
Good plus. Very, very good.
Right, that's the Shang-Chi. That's the film section out of the way, I suppose. Shang-Chi. How do you pronounce the name of the actress the lead actress in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because I think if I tried to pronounce it, it probably would sound like Shang-Chi.
Right. Is it
Shang?
I haven't got it in front of me, but is it like a Z-I sort of spelling? Sorry, an X-I sort of spelling.
Well, in the Romanized version, it's the first name is Zhang, Shang.
Zhang, yeah.
And then the second name is Ziyi.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. And the Legend of the Ten Rings.
There's no way we're getting that right. There's no way.
No, definitely wrong.
Sorry.
Well, making an attempt. Yeah.
Another weird things like Asian stuff. I guess I'm watching. I started watching Alice in Borderland on Netflix, which is I think did I talk about Gantz and Gantzo like earlier in the year when I watched that film. Anyway, it's one of those shows where it's like, oh, these teenagers get stuck in a video game, but like sort of. But this video game world has like deadly consequences. So you have to play the games in order to keep your visa running, and if your visa runs out, then you get laser shot from the sky. Okay. But the games themselves involve a lot of death, and it's one of those. But it's quite well made.
Netflix, aren't they, at the moment?
Squid Game, which is Korean and is a similar principle, but like without the sort of alternate Tokyo thing. I guess that's one of the coolest things about Alice in Borderland is like they've had to do the 28 days later thing and somehow take Tokyo and make it empty.
Oh, right.
And it's like there are some shots there where it's just like, that must have been expensive to arrange.
Right.
Like because the opening time they do that is in Shibuya, right? It's at the Scramble, and they just like have that completely empty, and it's like, wow, okay, that's a thing. And there's plenty of large panning shots where there is nobody about, and it's like they either CG'd the hell out of this, or all managed to do a hell of a lot of organisation to make sure nobody was here.
I would have thought CGing an empty space would be pretty easy nowadays.
Yeah,
like you use like a laser scan because it can just filter out all the moving components and only see what is continuously stationary.
But then we've seen what happened to the satellite imagery in Flight Simulator, right? Where you have these weird neon gaps in the floor where cars were that they tried to paint out.
Yeah, but that's because it's painting over an image. It's not got distance data or whatever.
Yeah, I guess it might be a little easier if you've got like multiple frames to work with, and you can just Photoshop.
That is the traditional way to like remove things from a video footage. As long as you've got a frame where that bit of the background isn't obscured, then you can just paste it back in.
Yeah, rebuild it somehow.
It's probably quite tricky. It's probably.
Well, I mean, it might not be though. That's the thing. At this point, it might be pretty much just an automated process where you just feed it a video and it just takes all the frames and reconstructs the whole background.
I mean, it's a little bit like, everyone uses Mandalorian, obviously, example right now. But it's like some of those backgrounds weren't like being rendered; they were like a photogrammetry thing where they just do basic polygons and then slap a photo on them, right? And then they can move them around and they look pretty real. And it's like, you could probably do a lot of the shots that way if you had enough frames you could stitch together onto a low poly map. You could probably make the effect good enough. But I don't know, Tokyo's geometry is pretty complex in places. Like if you're looking down like through like those stacked road networks in spaces and they had nothing moving on those in spots, and it's like, okay, you're going to need a relatively decent 3D model to keep track of this if you're doing it using that technique.
Yeah, I mean, it depends whether you need the camera to move as well, I guess. If it's a pretty stationary shot.
If it's a stationary shot, that's way easier. But no, all of these were moving in some way.
Still impressive.
Yeah, it's neat. As I say, show itself is quite
back in the day,
cliche.
Like,
but
28 days later, and like I think Vanilla Sky, didn't they do the what's it called, Times Square, by filming it super early in the morning?
Right.
And they were Hollywood productions, so they actually blocked off Times Square so that Tom Cruise could run into it on his own.
Yeah.
At like 5 in the morning on a summer when it was bright. Yeah.
It's probably easier.
Probably.
At picking awkward times, right? But
yeah. Still.
Anyway, shout out
cool,
to that. Though. And also, while we're on the subject of Netflixy stuff, we've talked about it, but we haven't talked about it on air. That Cowboy Bebop intro.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that they've hewn so closely to the original. It's just hard to see, does that mean that the show itself will be that
close? Yeah.
Close? Or
I think it's going to be like a half and half job, right? There'll probably be episodes that are almost one for one, but there will probably be other bits where it's like, okay, we're bending it a little.
Yeah.
Either to modernize it in some way, maybe because I don't know if there's much in Cowboy Bebop that's necessarily like awkward in terms of time, because when is it, 1999? It wouldn't be too bad, even for Japan, I suppose. But
yes, but the trick is that you can just excuse it by the setting. That's it doesn't matter what our current political climate on those kind of things is. It's just like that's the setting.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it's still problematic to put out a piece of entertainment with themes like that, but I mean, and they're obviously downplaying certain elements, like Faye's outfit isn't nearly as risque, and that
might not be necessarily a limit of,
or it might be a contractual thing with the actress. I don't know. Yeah.
Might not be a limit of remaking it as much as a limit of actual physical real world mechanics.
Well, yeah, cosplayers have made that suit, but like, how easy is it to stay on? It's a weird outfit.
There's a whole episode about a trans woman, right? Isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Who's in the army and stuff.
Yeah,
That's quite ahead of its time, I think, for 1999.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of smoking because it's noir.
Yep.
Which can't be avoided.
I mean, honestly, they're damn well better be. It's part of the style.
Yeah. I don't know how that works with spaceships and everything, but doesn't seem safe. But it's part of the style.
Air filtration just got good, man.
Yeah, I guess so. I love that they have the budget to operate a interplanetary spaceship, but they can't afford like
Food.
meat for their stir fry.
Yeah. Any food ever.
Yeah, and they can't afford to fix the squeaky, fan that's ventilating the middle of their spaceship.
I mean, clearly, like, it's just economies of scale at some point, I guess. Like ships and fuel became so readily available in the future, thanks to infinite possibility of mining.
All the ships are just like a super one-time purchase where you like buy them and you don't even refuel them ever or whatever.
Oh yeah, maybe they don't have fuel. They just some sort of power source that carries on well enough.
I seem to remember the individual fighters needed fueling. Like the red one,
right? Yeah,
Spike's fighter. I can't remember. Anyway, they could change any of that as much as they wanted. Really, wouldn't really affect the.
It's not that not that essential. No, they don't really use them in that way.
Well, so when is that due to come out?
Pretty soon, I think.
Sweet.
Like,
okay. I mean, it could be a total disaster, but I'm still excited to see it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to watch the hell out of the whole thing. Like, regardless of whether I think it's good or not, I'm still watching it. I have to. It's Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah. It's just quite cool that we live in a world where that's actually possible.
Yeah.
That there's a company that's going to remake that in live action.
And stay pretty damn true to it. And I mean, I don't know. It's weird. That is the most controversial thing about this so far, is like just how close they appear to be sticking to it. And it's great in some ways, but it's like, does it? But then, like, we've just come off watching The Watch, I guess, which has the problem of being the opposite problem, that it doesn't stay particularly close. But that was also fine. Like, it was a reinterpretation and was enjoyable for very different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I wouldn't have wanted Battlestar Galactica to be a close remake. That would have been terrible.
No. Although perhaps they should have done Total Recall as a slightly closer remake when Colin Farrell got involved, because that second...
Well, they didn't need to remake that at all, did they?
No, probably
Total
not.
Recall was fine, as it was.
that second version is kind of odd.
Yeah. I saw a poll, I can't remember who it was, I think it was BAFTA or something on Twitter, being like, what film really needs a sequel? We all know films that probably didn't need a sequel.
Or a remake.
Yeah.
Other films. I mean, surely the list will be any film that ended on a cliffhanger ending.
Yeah, any film that didn't get a sequel because they didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are there any where it's... Yeah. Can you think of one of those? I guess like it's a cliffhanger ending of a film and they never made the sequel just because it wasn't popular enough or something. Or,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there's obviously dumb ones like Inception 2, right? Like where it's got the
Yeah, but that's not a cliffhanger you can spawn a whole movie from.
No, probably not really. But it's like, I can only really think of that one. I mean, Alita Battle Angel hasn't had its second part, and that's clearly set up as supposed to be like an ongoing story.
Oh, okay.
And they've not progressed that.
That did well to be made at all, though, I suppose, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a perfectly enjoyable film. I quite like it. Yeah, but it is a bit, teen angsty. But that's kind of its right. That's kind of its thing.
Yeah. Always a bit of teen angst in entertainment.
I mean, they're making Attack the Block 2. That probably didn't need a sequel.
Oh yeah. Poor old Joe Cornish. I don't think he knew what to do next. Maybe that'll be good because...
I mean, the first one was good.
Yeah, it was good, yeah. He just hasn't really done much since then.
No.
Because it was going to be him and Edgar Wright going to make Ant-Man, and then they got fired.
Right, yeah.
Or Edgar Wright got fired or something. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
No.
Are you interested in it? Because I wasn't that into Baby Driver myself.
I mean, it's slightly problematic now because of Spacey, I suppose. I did only watch that relatively recently.
Right. Oh, okay.
I mean, I think it's a great film. Like, I enjoy it a lot. But yeah, Spacey problem aside.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed that. Like,
right.
If anything, the Edgar Wright film I've been least interested in is his new one.
Right, Last
Where-
Night in Soho, right?
Yeah, where he's gone back to
Yeah.
a sort of what looks like a fairly traditional horror vibe.
Horror kind of thing.
And I'm not sure. I mean, that's not really my thing normally. So it's like I don't know. I kind of want to keep this Edgar Wright train going, but in the same breath, it's like this one's not appealing.
Yeah, hard to tell. I haven't seen any reviews or anything for it, so. But that's out soon, right? Or it might be out now.
I mean, it would be impossible to make a Scott Pilgrim 2, probably. Well, I mean, I don't know about impossible, but it's like there's no the comic stopped, right? They covered the entire.
Okay. There's no more story.
They covered the entire comic in that film, and it's
Right,
so it would probably be something very different. I mean, I don't know. Matrix was pretty ended.
Yeah.
And now, four's coming about.
Oh man, I really hope that is at least fun to watch.
Pirates of the Caribbean was pretty ended, and then they decided 4 was a good idea.
Oh, that needed to end.
Yeah. I haven't seen 5, but 4 was appalling. Okay, it wasn't appalling, but it wasn't great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling.
Leave them where they are.
Yeah. I'll ponder
Okay.
on that for the rest of the cast. See if we come up with anything.
So, segueing from movies into games, well, should we talk about
Sort
the?
of.
Should we do the Nintendo Direct, which did have some movie news, I believe.
Oh, yeah, well, let's just skip straight to that. Might as well.
Yeah, movie news.
Illumination! Are the studio behind the new Mario movie.
We did already know that.
We did already know that. Yeah, we knew that a long time. We knew that was
Yeah,
the
we
first
knew
thing they
that
announced.
forever.
Yeah, that was the first thing they announced was that Illumination was doing it, and in conjunction with Shigsy.
Well, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what else is Shigsy doing these days?
Well, I think he spent a lot of time working on that.
Star Fox Zero.
on that theme park world.
Oh.
It worked out really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean that makes sense, right? Because in a weird way, there's probably quite a lot in common between designing a theme park in terms of like
Yeah.
getting the props and stuff right, as opposed and then converting all that knowledge into film land. Just being like he's probably just the style Bible, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Which then makes the rest of the news a bit baffling in many ways. It's like, I mean, the obvious one that everyone's been absolutely going mental about is Chris Pratt as Mario. And it's
He's
like,
so cool.
I mean, as they said in the direct, he's so cool.
He's so cool.
I mean, I have absolutely no problem with Chris Pratt as an actor. I do think he's good. And I don't have a problem with him at all. But he's not known for his range of voice work, is he?
I don't think he's known for that.
And
No.
Mario's an odd... I don't know. Like, it's hard to imagine anyone other than Charles Martinet doing a Mario voice, right? Even if you go back to that early first cartoon where Mario was all a bit like this the whole time.
Brooklyn
Yeah,
Mario.
Brooklyn Mario.
That's what you want.
Mamma mia.
That's not a good impression of that, but okay.
No, but... Hey, Mamma mia, I'm a Mario.
That's closer.
I mean, he'll
There we
have a
go.
different voice, won't he?
Well, the thing is, like, they specifically said he's going to be talking a lot, which is why maybe the first thing that's going to be hella weird.
Mm.
Like, that even having Mario say complete sentences is pretty rare.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time it's like, right, that's the sound effect that's in most of Paper Mario.
Yes, well, I mean, Paper Mario is a special case, I guess.
Yeah, 'cause he's-
I mean, yeah. The longest sentence that Mario's ever said is "So long, gay Bowser."
Well, thank you so much for playing my game.
For to play my game. Yeah. I mean,
want to play my game.
it seems obvious to me that I don't know. Chris Pratt is fine, but it seems like it's Chris Pratt because he made a success because the Lego movie was a success when no one
Sure.
expected it to be.
Right?
Right?
It's Chris
And-
Pratt because the Hollywood casting, basically.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
went and was like, who's big?
Who's
Get
hot?
them.
Who's hot right now?
Well, that's what I'm wondering because, like, if the Mario movie was Lord and Miller, I'd be pretty excited, right? Like the Lego movie was. And what did they go on to do? Into the Spider-Verse and
was it the same team that did Spider-Verse? I thought it was
same directors.
Same directors, right? Yeah, because I thought the Spider-Verse animation team were the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs team.
No, that's the same. Yeah, Cloudy with a Chance. Yeah. They made Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and the Lego movie. And, I didn't realize that was all the same crew. Wow. Yeah. Okay, they're churning out hits. I mean, it went a bit wonky because they were making a Star Wars movie. They were making Solo, and they got fired, just like Edgar Wright got fired from it, and Ant-Man, and then it got taken over by, what's his name from Happy Days?
The Fonz?
Not the Fonz, the other guy, the gingerhead guy.
Yeah, I know you mean. Harry something H. Is it H something? Howard. Howard something?
Ron Howard, yeah. Yeah. And so Ron Howard finished off Solo, and that was lame, which is a shame.
It was all right.
It was all right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was an exciting. I mean, whoever did the Lego movie was like, saw Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which is like, it's like a David Lynchian style kids movie. Like it's quite out there.
I love Meatballs.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think that and the second film are both fantastic.
Yeah. And they took a real chance by giving them Lego, and that's what's needed here. But instead, you've got like the Minions people making Mario.
That's it was never going to happen like that, because if you're making a Mario movie, it's going to be extremely generic.
Yeah,
and that's what the Minions team is good at.
This is my point. It's about. I mean, the Minions team do have a little bit of like being out there with their comedy, a little bit, but you're right. It's sort of a safe bet. It's not as bad as if they gave like Disney the rights, right? Like, and they did a Wreck-It Ralph on it, and it's like, I don't have a problem with Wreck-It Ralph as a film, like, but it is a little safe, right?
Yeah.
But I think even Wreck-It Ralph,
that would be safer.
I think Wreck-It Ralph is probably is less safe than this Mario movie is going to be.
Probably. Well, the first one, the second one's not great.
So Chris Pratt as Mario, and then
I actually don't know who the Peach actor is. Like, I don't know who
Anya Taylor-Joy. Oh, she's really big because she was in The Queen's Gambit, which was really successful. But she's the one in that. She's the one in Last Night in Soho, the Edgar Wright horror.
Right. Okay.
She's in everything at the moment.
Huh.
Just going with the picking the biggest names.
Yeah.
Trait.
Yeah. She was great. I mean, she'll be good as Peach. if anyone could be good as Peach, she'll be good.
I don't know if Peach has really ever had, other than the Paper Mario version of Peach, she's not exactly been huge. She's not had a great characterization, I suppose. So it's
say that about every character in the Paper Mario version of those characters.
Yeah, the Paper Mario version is the characterization, right? Like, I hope we get extremely talkative Luigi.
Well, it's freaking Charlie Day. So Pepe Sylvia. Yeah. So
yeah, I think that one's at least decent. Like, I have faith in that one.
That's hilarious.
And then likewise, I have faith in Jack Black as Bowser. I think that's fantastic.
I mean, it's just the way it built up the announcements and the order that they were announced. It just got more and more hilarious.
I mean, yeah, start with Chris Pratt and your eyebrow raisers.
Well, the thing is,
and then you talk about Peach and you're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, fine. And then Charlie Day.
And then they're like, oh.
And then Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
I mean, that's
then
weird.
Jack Black as Bowser. And then the ultimate one, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
But that's also fantastic. That's like, who else would you get to play Donkey Kong? That's actually pretty good.
I mean, I watched the Donkey reacting to this, and he just starts laughing more and more and more, and at the end, like, Leah brings him a little model of Donkey Kong, and he's like, "Smoke him up, Bowser."
Yes, typical joke that everyone has made.
Yeah.
It's all going to be smoking bananas.
Oh man!
I mean, he literally is like he's so known for being like
stoner
into marijuana that like he's like smoking it on live TV with Conan O'Brien and stuff like that. It's like completely part of this. It's like I don't know who's a more famous stoner apart from like Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson.
Cheech and Chong.
But I can't see. I don't like. They say Mario's going to talk a lot, but surely Donkey Kong isn't going to talk that much.
No.
Well, they've got Cranky Kong, right?
Well, yeah,
So
but the thing is that when they bring in
it's
these,
Fred Armisen.
when they mention all these other characters like Donkey Kong, Cranky Kong, and Spike, who is I believe from Wrecking Crew.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think it's safe to assume that we're going for a bit of a like Mario universe thing, where it's they're just going to jump around between all the different games that Mario has been in at some point.
Sure.
Okay, place bets now. We see a rabbit. from like Mario Cross Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
That's possible, because they are kind of minionish.
They're miniony, aren't they? Yeah.
Where is Birdo?
I mean, that's a question you should ask most of the time.
Well, where's Mario and Waluigi?
I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe that's what they mean by the Charles Martinet.
Yeah, that's what everyone
cameos.
is assuming that is going to happen with Charles Martinet. Is he's still going to be doing probably Wario?
Because they haven't. Yeah. Well, because we know nothing about what the plot is. We know nothing about what the actual story is, and it's like, Wario and Waluigi could just be like a bumbling, like trying to be bad, like following the adventure, and just occasionally going, wah! And it's like they could do minion style slapstick with them.
Yeah, maybe. The trouble is that like it's really. It seems like this is just going to be hella safe and obvious, and like the story is going to be kind of. I mean, Bowser is going to kidnap Peach. They're not going to. That's just going to. They're not even going to twist that. I don't think. Probably.
No, probably
not.
Think? No, not for a first
movie.
First run.
Yeah, maybe.
But then, like, you think that, but then that makes it even harder to imagine how all these voice actors are going to fit in. Like the way that I first thought about it when I was thinking about how the fuck are they get. Well, like it's worse with Chris Pratt. He's the one that stands out as being like, what the fuck? the other ones you can kind of see on some level. But like I was thinking, like the obvious way would just be to have it be more like I don't know, Jumanji 2 or something, where they're just like, is their normal goddamn voices just coming out of the characters? They've somehow been trapped into the Mario characters.
Oh, wow.
Right, but that's not what they're going to do, obviously.
That's not what... I mean, they might. They go like full-on Captain N or something with it all.
Yeah, or something. But they're not going to do that. I mean, specifically, they've already kind of said that they're not going to... Like, Chris Pratt made a tweet about it where he's like...
I'm practicing the voice.
Yeah, he is doing a voice. It's not going to just be him talking.
Yeah. I mean, I have to see this thing.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen the Sonic movie. Have you seen it?
I've seen the Sonic. Of course I've seen the Sonic movie.
Of course, Robert.
Sorry, that's a stupid thing to... You didn't see it in the cinema, though, did you?
Yes, I did.
Sorry. Sorry.
That was the correct response. It's fine.
Anyway, I mean, I think that had more chance of being good than the Mario movie. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is less generic.
No, well, it is less generic, yeah, but it's also more generic in the sense that they did the Hollywood cop-out thing. Well, we're not going to fully animate this. We're going to live action it and save money. Which they probably then did.
Does it save money to be live action over animated?
Yeah, it does. It's.
I suppose now we know with the Mario one it'll be fully animated, right? I suppose, unless it has a kind of
unless it has a real world crossover moment of some kind,
like in what am I thinking of? SpongeBob SquarePants. David Hasselhoff appears.
Probably not quite that much. Yes, basically, don't get your hopes up for this to be anything particularly interesting, apart from as a concept. I mean, like to see how they manage it is the interesting part. The whole story and plot and whatever is very unlikely to be interesting.
It'll be an accolade to be a competent, directly licensed video game film.
Yeah,
right. That in itself is a success. I mean, Sonic skates that line pretty closely. Like I don't know,
the best of the recent attempts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You could argue that Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider film was acceptable. It was okay,
but Tomb Raider is a bit of an easier angle to come at.
Absolutely. You come at it from a sort of Indiana Jones approach.
Yes, like obviously.
Except they sort of grittied it up to be a bit more like the Square Enix stuff, the more recent Tomb Raiders. As you might expect. And everyone kind of assumed there'd be a sequel to that as well. Like, while we're talking about movie sequels, it's like, I thought they would carry that on, and that we'd by now have a Tomb Raider 2 film.
I'd actually forgotten that they're making they made the Uncharted film, and that the Tom Holland stars in it, and he's already said it's shit in an interview before it's even come out.
Oh wait, what? He really?
Yeah, because he's notorious, isn't he, for saying stupid things in interviews and not keeping secrets or stuff like that.
But he's in it. Surely his paycheck is related to how well it does.
I know. I think they're pretty angry. Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. Tom Holland's the best.
Yeah, he is.
Then,
and he's literally going out with Zendaya. So.
Oh right, okay.
Props to him.
Yeah. I guess the well, there's the don't forget that not Uncharted. Last of Us is also getting an HBO show.
I mean, again, that's not actually very difficult to
Probably
adapt
in
any way.
I mean, they just go out of the Walking Dead playbook, right?
Yeah, the generic zombie plot playbook.
Yeah. I mean, most Sony properties probably not that tricky. Although I'd really love to see them try God of War.
Yeah,
but that doesn't have a plot. that's just fight scenes.
Oh, I mean,
it does have a plot.
The last one had a decent enough plot. I mean, given how much Sony is throwing Horizon's direction of late, probably see an adaptation of Zero Dawn or something.
Video game adaptations you actually want to see. I mean, I think pretty much I'd be okay with seeing
somehow make a Rez film. I dare you.
Almost any Tim Schafer game, I would be up for seeing the movie.
Oh my god! Can you imagine like how good a Psychonauts film would be?
Psychonauts film, the Grim Fandango film, Full Throttle as a film, freaking Day of the Tentacle as a film. I mean, it could be done, but you might as well just play the game.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to some of those, it's like I think I'd quite like a film version of them, so I don't have to play the game.
Day of the Tentacle would be a bit like Bill and Ted, wouldn't it? With all the time travel and yeah. They could actually do Day of the Tentacle. That would be weird.
A hugely simplified version of those. I mean, you could argue something like Abe's Odyssey could steer in that direction. Of maybe being made into films. I mean, they tried with Ratchet and Clank.
Right, yeah. It's funny that the graphics in the PS5 one are like in some ways better than the animated movie.
They're pretty close, aren't they?
Some ways, yeah.
I mean, props to Sony in a way for continuing to try.
Yeah. Because
Microsoft tried unsuccessfully to do Halo a few times.
Yeah. That never got off the ground, did it?
No. That when that TV that was it? I can't remember how it started. Was it like a Halo film at first, and then they tried making a proper TV show, and then that ended up splintering into the two little projects we ended up with, like the Forward Unto Dawn and Nightfall, I think, that were like lead-ins to Halo 4 and 5. We never really got the proper Halo thing.
Because when they were first doing it, it was supposed to be Neil Blomkamp or whatever, who did
District 9
District 9 like instead, didn't he? Like he made District 9 after Halo fell through, I think.
No, I want to say it was the other way around. I think District 9 happened, then his name was brought up, and then that failed, and then he went and did the other South African robot film. I can't remember. Chappie, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I think that's how that played out.
It was going to be Weta Workshop, wasn't it? Like the museum.
Oh yeah.
Like
I mean, I think Weta might have actually been involved in Forward Unto Dawn.
Yeah, they made the Warthog, didn't they?
Yeah. I think my friend Joe Pace was involved in that because he came from working with them before he came to London.
I think Weta might have been the ones behind. Was it Weta? Might have been them behind the whole diorama thing for Reach as well.
Probably.
They seem to do a lot of like things that get counted. Like they were going to make the Dam Busters movie remake with the script by Stephen Fry.
Wait, really?
Yeah, way back, and that got stuck in development hell. Yeah, but they had like full size Lancaster bomber replicas and stuff going on. It never happened. Remember, they had the classic problem of what to name the dog.
Poochie.
Yeah.
My planet needs me.
Yeah.
So we should talk about the
Anywho,
rest of the Nintendo Direct.
Video games. Yeah. What else is going on? What happened? What other actual Nintendo news is there related to actual games rather than hypothetical movies?
Hypothetical movies. Well, okay. We talked a little bit about The Last of Us. How do you fancy Kirby in The Last of Us? Actually, it's Kirby in the Forgotten Land, but Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's like they're making a 3D Kirby game that's like actually 3D.
About time.
And not like Kirby's Air Ride, which I guess was actually 3D.
That is technically the answer if you were saying what is the first Kirby 3D game.
And yeah, not including the 2.5D stuff they've done already.
Yes.
And it's Kirby is Legend. Is that the idea?
I guess, yeah. It's like they're investigating this mysterious world, which is basically just ruined Earth.
Well,
Right.
but except not, because lore spoilers for Kirby, if you played Kirby 64, Earth already exists in the Kirby universe, except it's frozen in that universe.
Oh.
So
So
this
like
is
nuclear
Thor-
winter or something in Kirby's universe of their Earth.
So this is like a thawed. It's thawed, basically.
Well, maybe, or it's a different place.
Hmm.
They don't do a very good job. I mean, not that Kirby ever really has story, but they don't do a very. They don't make it particularly obvious that like Kirby happens on a lot of different planets a lot of the time. You know, Kirby is from Popstar, and that's a specific place. And then in Kirby 64 in particular, every level is a different planet that you go to.
Wow, okay. I did not know that.
No. But, you know, like I said, Kirby doesn't really... It's never had a story intentionally. It has, like, you know, well, what
Just
you would call
things.
lore.
Right.
Like, stuff that you can pick up on if you... It doesn't care about it.
Mm.
It's just background. But now, you know, maybe this one will be the one to have some amount of story, maybe.
I mean, it's
Except
like,
I don't know about that, because I feel like...
I don't know. I reckon it'll be sort of levelly,
Yeah,
maybe.
I feel like you know... It won't. Well, I mean, I suppose there is a you know character that follows you around probably in a helper character kind of way that you see in a couple of the scenes. So
Sure.
there could be an opportunity to actually have actual text, like because obviously Kirby doesn't speak.
Wow.
So maybe there'll be another character to be there to explain the world.
Yeah, probably a star. So, I mean, there's a lot of like round-edged stars in Kirby.
Yes, there is. I think they already used that in one of the other games.
I mean, this is Kirby Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
Like, but is it going to be Kirby
Level-based.
Odyssey? Yeah. Are we going to have like big open areas that you can mess around, or is it going to be quite guided? And it's obviously an early view, but my immediate impression was it's not going to be as good as Odyssey because it's like not
obviously.
I mean, not even just in terms of the gameplay. They didn't show a lot of what I would call particularly interesting gameplay. I guess the one thing was the spike ball. It was like, oh, do I get to be a Katamari? Like it was like
Probably not.
and it's so I wasn't hugely impressed with that. But also, like they the direct was broadcast in 60 frames per second, and this was not 60. Like Mario Odyssey ran at a decent 60, and it's like this looked a little bit like a chunky 30, and it's like that could just be early trailer, but it's not really a Nintendo style. It's like they put things out sort of target visuals when they put stuff out, which is a slight. I don't know. I assume this is being made by HAL Labs, like because Kirby, right? And they've shown they've got some chops for some decent performance. Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that they're going to do it a lot like Kirby 64, where the trick is because Kirby 64 is obviously very level based, but the getting through it isn't necessarily just the main goal. You have the puzzles, which is about getting Kirby specific powers, but it's about getting the right power to the right location in that game specifically.
Right.
So you'll have to go to a different level to get a specific power, and then bring that power through the other level without losing it.
That could be kind of awkward.
Well, I mean, it could be, but it depends how they choose to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they could bringing stuff from other levels into another level is always kind of irritating to me because it's
Yeah.
like that requires quite a lot of planning and like a lot of play to get to the thing you know how to do.
But if
once you
it's-
have the thing,
But if it's more like just one big open world where you have to transport it from one place in that world to another place,
yeah, I
that's
mean,
some
you could make a
distance
puzzle
apart.
out of that. You could make something fun out of that potentially.
Yeah, maybe. But then, I mean, what I want to see, and obviously the other thing that they should steal from Kirby 64 is combining powers, because that was cool.
Absolutely. I mean, that seems like one of those features that, they've never really revisited it, have they? But also, like, it's one of those things where it feels like it's kind of hard to go back from because it is such a cool idea.
I mean,
like,
they have
anything with like a combination of stuff, right?
Yes.
It's just like as soon as you do that, it's just like this is so much better than what you had before.
because
it
you get like
seems like-
exponentially more options.
Yeah, exactly. It's much harder to develop, clearly. But
And also, like, Mario in Odyssey has the ability to take on powers because of the hat. So
became
Kirby has to
Kirby.
go, so Kirby has to one-up Mario there by combining powers.
You would hope.
Surely. Because otherwise it's too similar to Odyssey, right?
yeah, I mean, and it's not like we haven't had Kirby games recently, right? They've actually done quite a bit of late.
They're all the traditional Kirby games.
Yeah.
So I think the last one did have some elements of combining powers because it was like you could have the little your AI or players as the secondary characters that would follow you around, and like if you had the sword power and you also had the flame ally, you could apply the flame to the sword.
It's just that weird sort of semi-free-to-play thing.
No, that's the fighting one.
Oh, that's the fighting one.
But yeah, they have sort of used the combining powers, except it's more in like team attacks almost. But if we're just going back to just Kirby by himself, although that's sort of what people are worried about. Like, what about 2-player? Because everyone likes playing Kirby in multiplayer.
Really?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
because it's kind of that sort of simple game that you can play with various people.
What, like new Super Mario Bros. Kind of?
Yeah, I suppose. But that's not going to work in an open world, really.
No, that stuff always seems to be tricky. I mean, I guess you could argue the closest to succeeding there is 3D World.
Yeah.
And even then, those are levels, right? But they're still kind of open and 3D-ish. But pretty linear levels, yeah. But then we haven't really seen like if this really does open up particularly. A lot of the areas seem to look like they were just sort of a path.
Yeah, they're fairly closed, like within one screen maybe. You have to see how it interconnects. That's the thing. If it is paths and then or an actual open world, how open could it possibly be?
I'd be kind of okay with like a return to like the if they went for like a Mario 64 formula, right? And that there's multiple star courses or multiple things you can do within the same level. And like picking a different like entry like changes the level a bit, and they do things that way. It's like a bit me was wondering about this. It's like is like the current open world design actually better than like Mario 64's pick a course and things are different depending on which one you pick kind of thing.
Right, because when you choose a different star, it has a different setup.
Yeah, things change, and it's like is that more or less interesting? I'm not sure, or annoying. More to the point. I guess it's more guided that way because you get a little clue.
Yeah,
that's a bit more guided. Yeah, that's not the way things go these days. Is it? Mostly it's like completely open, right? But yeah, it'd be interesting to explore that concept again.
Mario 128, make it happen.
Yeah.
At least they've decided not to. At least weirdly, I guess it's like they've just given this Kirby game a name from the start. It's not just called Kirby.
Yeah, which they've clearly done before. No, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
So that's that.
Potential for fun.
Yeah, who knows? I'm not really. I'm definitely not up on my Kirby. It's like I think I played through one of the parts of Kirby Superstar on the SNES, and that might be it.
Yeah,
and I've seen you play some.
I played the Game Boy one.
Yeah, I've watched Zach play some like early Kirby stuff, but
what was the Game Boy one?
Kirby.
Yeah, it's just called Kirby, right? The original.
Really? Oh, right.
And then it's like Kirby 2 : something. They all had titles like that.
Kirby's Dream Land. That's what I had.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Is that the SNES one?
That might be the first SNES one, yeah.
Yeah, what's the remix of Green's going to be in this game? The ruined remix.
No, they're just going to get the Mario Odyssey horns out. Get the horn section.
All orchestral.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, just get the Smash Orchestra, whoever they use for that. They're not busy right now. I mean, we should mention that, like, the last character for Smash is coming soon. Like,
but not in time for this podcast.
No, annoyingly. It's going to get announced Tuesday, apparently.
And all the speculation.
Yep.
Waluigi! Easy win.
The final character.
I haven't actually seen on YouTube much of the build-up speculation that there usually is.
No. I guess it's because everyone's just kind of bummed that it's the last one, right?
Maybe.
And then we've got to wait another 5 or 10 years for like another Smash. Smash more Ultimate.
Actually,
what do they do in terms of the naming from here? Like,
they're not going to make another one at this point.
I mean, not until we know another console.
Well, sure, at least.
Super Switch, until that's a thing. This next one was a slightly odd announcement, given that Sony had already announced they were making Knights of the Old Republic remake. That the original Knights of the Old Republic is coming to Switch.
Yes, a port of the original. Yeah.
Didn't the original already get ported to something else recently, though?
I mean,
it's on iPad.
It came to iPad a while back, yeah.
I'm not sure that was what I'm thinking of, but yes, okay.
I mean, that's probably more convenient to play it on a Switch mobile than on iPad. To be honest.
Probably.
The controls are a bit weird on iPad. It's surprising how well they do work, but they do work. But yeah, I'd definitely rather play it with a actual gamepad. But that game is old, man. 2003.
But you have a lot less time to wait for that, though, than you do the remake, because it's out in November.
Yeah, that's true. They should sell it as a bundle. They should have done 1 and 2.
Yeah, it is a bit weird that they didn't.
That'd be better.
When it comes to series like that, it is a little strange when they just do. Yeah, we're just doing the first one.
I mean, those games are quite different, but that's cool. I don't know. And the second one was famously kind of sort of unfinished. It was weird how fast they put out the second one, because obviously they got Obsidian to do it rather than BioWare. But like, it literally came out like the next year, and considering it's a big RPG, it's like, amazing that they made it distinctive. Obviously, they reused like 80% of the assets from the original game.
Sure,
but still.
But that was Obsidian's bag, wasn't it, for a long time? It's like
making sequels really fast.
Yeah. I mean, New Vegas, right, is the other quick one, right? That came out not long after Fallout 3.
Another example of a game that some people like better than than Fallout 3, for example. Yeah.
So anyway, we're getting that. Project Triangle Strategy has dropped the project again.
Predictably.
Yep. So Octopath Traveler was the last time that happened. So the same team are making this.
What's it called now?
It's now called Triangle Strategy.
That's bad.
It's not a great name.
The grid isn't even triangle based. That would have been. I mean, it's about 3 different moralities or whatever. But like, if the actual grid had been triangle based, that would have been more logical.
I mean, a slightly strange trailer, right? Because they were going on about it's like, here's what's changed since the demo.
Well, that's what they did with Octopath and every other game they've made recently.
Yeah, but it's weird, like for people that haven't played the demo, to feel like, here's what we changed. And it's like, well, I didn't know that was a problem.
But it seems like a lot of people forgot that they even did play the demo. Like the people who did play it forgot that they played it.
Oh yeah, that thing. I mean, it's definitely got the look, right? It's got that like HD 2D that they call it. The Octopath look.
And now that you can rotate the camera, it looks even more like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah. I mean, that's no bad thing, right? The Tactics is a great game. March 4th. They gave that a date. Please enjoy. Then we got yet another trailer for Metroid Dread. I say yet another. It's not as bad as Deathloop.
Right, it's also not really a new trailer. It's more just like bits spliced from all the other trailers.
Kinda. They did show a bit more, like, they had, which is frustrating for me because I kind of want it to be one of those, like, the whole point of Metroid is the atmosphere and the unknown. And it's like, I think they're showing too much. And they were kind of aware of it as well, because they also said, we've got more to show if you want. Like, you can go right digging on our blog and you can learn all about this game. And it's like, no, don't do that. If you're going to play Metroid, you want to go in pretty blind.
I mean, I suspect by the time I get round to playing this, I'll probably will have forgotten everything anyway. Because I get the feeling I'm not going to be playing it immediately.
In fairness, I'm getting there. Like my brain has definitely lost a few things in the last week and a half. But no, I'm intentionally trying to switch off from that thing. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. That's the trick. I know you've not got a lot else on this year, Nintendo, but calm down. Cool your jets.
Tell us anything about Metroid Prime 4 instead.
Yeah, please. Tell us anything. I'll take anything. I think we got the... I don't know how I feel about this next bit. Switch Online hasn't exactly been a... I mean, it's cheap, but I wouldn't say you get a lot for your money from Switch Online. Right? Yeah. So you get access to that NES library. You get access to that SNES library. You get Tetris 99. Which, might be worth the cost of entry for at least a little while. And they've had other 99 games come and go. Mario, you can't play Mario 35 anymore. That came and went. But I think Pac-Man 99 is still about. Yeah, I don't know. It's and obviously you get online play and the terrible cloud save system, which doesn't really work.
You needed that for Splatoon.
Yeah, you need that for Splatoon.
At the time.
So it's never seemed like a particularly great service. So the fact that they're sliding in what they call the Switch Online Plus expansion pack as a more expensive version, we don't know how much more. We don't know how much more. No, they have not announced any pricing details. And all that, I mean, that's slapping in an N64 library and unexpectedly a Sega Genesis library into the mix as well. But it's like, I don't know if I'd like those. I still not sure I agree with like NES and Switch. NES and SNES and N64 and Genesis being tied up behind a subscription wall.
I prefer.
They're not meant to be that, though, are they? Really, they're meant to be a bonus to your subscription.
Yeah,
you're not meant to be buying the subscription to get.
But what else do you? But what else do you get with this add-on subscription?
That's it.
Nothing else, right?
That is it.
Well, and the ability to buy the controllers.
Well, yeah, true. Because like they
at least fought ahead about scalpers. Were like, if we restrict these, so only actual people who
can use it get them. I mean, that in fairness to them, that's pretty sensible. Like,
yes.
Although there's some controversy about that as well. Okay, one, like nobody really wants an N64 controller apparently, even though it's like that's kind of the way you have to play N64 games. Even if you're emulating them.
You need a Z. You need a Z.
Yeah.
Are they any good? Those.
I mean, we don't. I mean, the current theory is that they've probably had to have done some work to how the stick functions, like so it can't be like mechanically identical because those things didn't age well. Those original analog sticks.
Well, that's why you need a new one.
Yeah.
but it's like they can't just replace it with a modern analog stick because it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same, no. So, the theory is that they've modernized the parts, but it is still odd. It will be different in some way. Like it might have this, like underneath it all, it might still have the same sort of mechanism.
And just imagine a Genesis controller where the buttons aren't really sucking loose.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can. That's my Genesis controller. I like.
Is this going to include Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Or...
Well, I don't think they said that was in the list, not at launch anyway.
They showed Sonic
2.
1, didn't they?
That was the only Sonic.
That was the only Sonic.
Sonic CD?
No.
Not on the Genesis. Only if you get the CD add-on.
Yeah.
By another
Fine.
level of subscription.
Yeah, another £1 a month for the Sega Genesis Mega CD.
What do I need to pay to get the 64DD version of F-Zero? Like, because you're not
What
going
was
to
it called, the Mega CD in America? Genesis CD. That's a terrible name.
I think it was just called the Sega
Sega CD, I think. Yeah.
Sega CD. Okay.
Yeah.
Mega CD is way cooler.
Mega CD. And Mega CD 2 for the Sega Genesis 2.
Yeah.
And the Mega Drive 2.
Mega Drive 2.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with
So
me. Nintendo should just come out and offer something like Rare Replay, right? They just go like, here, buy a package and get them all.
Yeah. So if this has got Ocarina, right? But is this the Ocarina? It's the original Ocarina.
It'll be the original.
3DS version.
No, it's definitely not the 3DS remake. It is very much
Okay.
the original. I don't think it's even the slightly tweaked GameCube like version of Ocarina.
Really? Okay.
I think it is just straight
It's
up
like a
and then-
fully emulated N64.
I mean, yeah, Nintendo have just
Yeah.
they've got a history of like just running emulators, right? Like people
Yeah,
figured out
yeah.
what they were using for the NES and SNES emulation.
yeah, but they did a good job with those SNES Mini, right? And
Good.
NES Mini.
Good enough, yeah. Nothing to complain about. And see, N64 emulation's a weird one because if they are doing an emulation route, like there are more accurate N64 emulators now, but historically, like N64 emulation has been they got good enough working very quickly with N64 stuff, but then they kind of left it alone for ages. Like accuracy wasn't a big thing, and it's like I don't actually know how they're doing it for Rare Replay because Rare Replay obviously has a few N64 games on it, and it's like I don't quite know what they're doing there, but that was accurate enough. So I assume Nintendo are going to take the same approach to what Rare Replay did.
And in the Mario 3D All Stars or whatever, the Mario 64 presumably was emulated, was it?
Mario, I guess it was, yeah, but maybe with some hacks to.
Or it could have been, well, I doubt it, but it could have been based on the 3DS version or
Maybe.
1DS version.
Yeah,
Not even 3DS.
yeah, just DS.
Well, I don't. Yeah, because that's the thing. That's because there's no way to play that Ocarina of Time update. You know, that on a non-mobile.
No,
on a TV.
you need that.
So-
You need that DS version. Yeah, and there's no way to play it on telly. That's the only time they've ever. Well, I guess they don't do many remakes in general, Nintendo, but that's the
remasters. Yeah. Well, they did the Wind Waker remaster. I mean, it was on the Wii. It was on the Wii U.
yeah.
They've got to release that at some point, and they've just done the Skyward Sword for Switch, so they'll eventually.
I thought Wind Waker HD. I thought they did get a Switch release.
No,
Maybe it
it's
hasn't
not on
yet.
Switch. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'd get it. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty sure it's only on
Twilight
Wii U.
Princess, did that come to Switch? Was that the one that got released
Mm.
on Switch, or did that only come out on Wii U as well?
I don't remember.
Because they did an HD version of that as well.
That might be Switch.
Switch.
Yeah. But that doesn't look very good, like up-resed, because I don't know, it just doesn't scale nicely.
It was something about the dithering. You think that is a kind of essential to its look, or
It's the Land of Bloom.
Yeah.
Land of Bloom? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I was going to say is like the Japanese version of this, they get the 6-button Genesis pad, not the 3-button version. Controversial.
But what if they never? What if none of those games support it, or the other way round?
I mean,
what
maybe
if there is a game that needs 6 buttons?
Yeah, they'll probably limit what comes out on the platform. Problems. Yeah, so let's move on. There's only 2 more things to mention. We've got Splatoon 3. We got a bit more of a look at that.
If for the people who had managed to stop laughing by this point, because the movie announcement happened immediately
it
before
was
this.
just after
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
announcement.
But, good to see some more Splatoon. I've got these weird little boxes they now fly around in and start the match in. It's like, what's that about?
Well, but it looks like I'm guessing it's giving you some amount of control over spawn location.
Maybe.
Because they fly out at like quite diverse angles when you see them launch at the start of the match.
Maybe you get
there's some amount
maybe you get
of,
a bit of a launch at the start, like a free launch.
Or like maybe some kind of anti-spawn camping thing.
Oh,
where
maybe.
It lets you spawn a bit differently rather than everyone always appearing in the same place.
Wouldn't that be weird? Yeah, if like that's actually part of the turf war mechanic now, that you can the spawn is actually a moving part of the level in some way.
Because there's one moment in that trailer where they show what looks like a super jump, but it looks like you're activating it from on the battlefield.
Right.
So, like, maybe there's some kind of ability to,
summon the box?
Essentially, like, back camp or whatever. Back camp.
Yeah. Oh, right. Set a jump point. Yeah, because I guess that was one of Splatoon 2's problem, is that, like, not the jump mechanic kind of became a bit sidelined because you didn't have the Wii U's always on map.
Yeah.
It's like you could switch to it, you could use it, and it was easy enough.
And it was always like not great anyway, because you'd inevitably jump directly into a bunch of enemies.
Generally, yeah. I definitely didn't use it, but basically I got no one used it as much in 2 as it felt like it was being used in the first.
Yeah.
So maybe they've looked at that and thought maybe we can do something about that. And they showed a couple more specials. We didn't get to see any more standard weaponry, I don't think, or anything fancy in that front.
I mean, unless I think the crab tank might just be a standard weapon.
Yeah, really?
Like, I don't think that's a special. It didn't look, because it looked like they were using it all the time.
Of course, that's a special.
I don't think so. I think that might be some kind of standard weaponry now.
Or is it something that's just on the map?
Well, yeah, maybe
like a claimable thing. Yeah.
It didn't have any like indication, because normally the specials you get some kind of like glow or whatever, or like some indication that it's like running out or on a timer or like, but it doesn't have that. It just looks like normal inkling that I'm riding a tank.
Yeah, we got some. The other thing they showed is kind of the theme on where the storyline is going, to which it's like, I don't know. I'm immediately like a little bit skeptical, because it's like, I don't want any mammals in my damn universe.
But what about Mr. Grizz?
Mr. Grizz? Who was Mr. Grizz? Oh, right. We don't know what he is, do we? Like, he's just a bear statue.
Well, the thing is, like that when they added the last of the Salmon Run levels, the rocket launch or rocket landing site, the Project Aurora or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's like there's lore in that level. I think you can even see it where it's implying that rocket specifically was carrying grizzly bears.
Right,
like it was part of the save nature thing. Save nature through this whatever the hell happened in the Splatoon universe. They launched them into space, which is also what they're showing the rocket launch site at the end of the Splatoon 3 trailer as well.
Yeah,
so presumably it's going to go into that slightly more, but if that's where the mammals are, they're all in space and they're going to come back.
Yeah, because there's furry octopus now.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
very tentacles.
Is it going to be real mammals or is it going to be octolings faking mammals?
Probably a bit of that. But then there was like as was said, I watched the Friend Code episode on this, and as they were talking about, there's just a Captain Caveman at the end of this, like just this ball of fluff with arms and eyes.
Yes, it seems like some kind of weird like trap device. Also, don't forget, cats still exist.
Well, yes, that's and they picked up on that, didn't they? It's like in a world where the only mammals are 2 cats.
Except really, it's 1 cat and a clone.
Yeah, Judd and Lil Judd.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just excited for more Splatoon. It's been a while, but it's 2022, unspecified when in 2022, but 2022, so next year. And we got a tiny little clue there may be more salmonid action, because it looks like you may have a pet salmonid.
Well, they already showed that in the first announced trailer.
But it's like we don't know I want to know what that mode is like now, because that's one of the things that needed a lot more.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're going to bring that mode back though. There's like
they haven't shown anything.
No,
but that mode deserves to be expanded, because it was decent.
Yes,
and perhaps they get rid of the crappy time limit.
Well, I mean, or any of the UI elements of Splatoon that we always complain about that
weird
needs
service.
fixing, then yes,
Yeah,
you would hope that they might, on the third attempt, have learned some more.
the weird service restrictions of Splatoon. Hopefully, they get away from. Like, I still don't mind the map rotation. That's fine, but yeah, the fact that you could only play the salmon run mode at certain times was kind of weird. Yeah. Hey, Splatoon 3, get hype. If for nothing else, there's going to be a whole load of more soundtrack to get. I did see a couple of places misreporting the whole Splatoon thing, saying like, "Oh, it's getting a story," and I'm like, "Have you not played the first two games?" It's like they had a whole DLC pack that was basically extra story for Splatoon 2. Like, they made a big deal of advertising that, and it was badass. And finally,
speaking of badass,
Platinum Games showed up
eventually,
at last.
Fashionably late,
or unfashionably late.
Unfashionably late. Was she? It's
Bayonetta
3. Bayonetta 3. Okay. It's Bayonetta 3. With a nice little, as everyone seems to be pointing out, a nice little astral chain fake out there.
So no one could possibly have been fooled by that. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. Bayonetta 3. It's a game. It actually has been being made.
It has been being made. It's true.
It has been. So there's a theory going around that basically, like, that Platinum just got waylaid by things. Like they something was going wrong in their other projects, and that this was the thing that got put on hold. And Nintendo were like, "That's cool. Just make sure you make it good." And so that's why it's been so long, and now we're finally seeing it. I don't know what else Platinum was doing in the way, like maybe something like around that Wonderful 101 remake or something that happened in the middle, but that's the current theory, that like Platinum took on some stuff and they took on 2 stuff, and Nintendo were the ones that were happy to just be like, yeah, that's fine. Just make sure we get it, kind of thing.
We conveniently never set a date, and therefore we don't have to break this date.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, Nintendo have got a bit of a reputation for this now, like just being like, well, we're not going to give you any more money, but you can have as much time as you want. We don't mind.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So it's good that it's still about. So, impressions. It's like, I don't know. I'm not sure that was the best way to really reveal it, like, because that, I don't know, that setting was quite grey and grimy, and like, this is all supposed to be like in-game graphics. Everything was in there, and it didn't look great, that scene. Like, it did look kind of mank, and I'm sort of thinking back to like Bayonetta 2 and go, that game was filled with colour and was delicious to look at. And then we're getting this cloudy grey city with a fake out military setting. Like, obviously that's not a huge deal, but it's like, even when they got to the gameplay parts, and it definitely improved when it's suddenly like, 60 frames per second, we're back. Okay, this is Bayonetta.
Well,
let's go.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe not the last part of that trailer.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, let's go. And a bit of me was thinking, I don't know, there's something off about the look here. As a huge Bayonetta fan, there's just something in me that was just like, I'm not feeling this 100%. I'm still feeling it because it's bad, because it's here. It's like I'm still hyped.
Yeah,
I'm still hyped, but I'm a little bit tempered. So the thing they wanted to show us clearly in this trailer was, it's like, hey, we've got normal combat, and they only show you a little bit of that, and then they're much more keen on showing us, hey, we've now got kaiju combat.
However that actually controls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, other outlets have been quick to point out they've hinted at doing this before, because there was scenes in Bayonetta 2 where you could be having it might be Bayonetta 1, actually, I can't remember, where you're having a fight with some dude in the foreground, and then there's like a kaiju battle happening in the background that is sort of influenced by what you're doing, sort of.
Yeah.
So it's like, now they're just going full on, no, you're just sort of controlling this massive other thing. As something else to do, and it's like, okay, great, hit us with a new feature. That's a good way to actually suck us in, I guess. there's a lot of theories now of like, okay, is this actually, judging by her Bayonetta's appearance and things like that, is this actually a prequel? There's hints that that people are looking at that logo and how it splits apart, that perhaps actually this is like there's a split personality thing between what Bayonetta became and her original Cereza personality, and that there's something funny about that. I mean, the storyline in Bayonetta was always nuts, but the one thing people are sort of moving away from is like, they're not going to do time travel again. They did that in Bayonetta 2. Please don't do time travel again. 2022. Undisclosed, some part of 2022.
Who is the person at the end?
But that was the most annoying part of that trailer, right? Because they showed 2022 and then they cut it up.
Like,
and
everyone to reveal something else.
And everyone was just like, oh my gosh, is it coming out right now? And it's like, no. Just they just cut it out of the way just to have some
animation.
Some dude reveal. And it's like, is that the split personality? Is it a dude? It's like, is this theory even a theory? No one knows.
A lot of people were like, oh, it's Dante. They're doing a Devil May Cry crossover.
Oh my gosh. How weird would that be?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, Virgil just turns up. But not Devil May Cry Virgil, DMC Virgil.
Yeah, obviously.
Just to make it even weirder. Hey, I'm hyped. It can't come soon enough. Except apparently it can.
Yeah.
Right. And that was it. That's my picks from Nintendo Direct.
Nintendo.
In other news, only two other little things really to cover off here. Amazon's New World came out.
The hella generically named MMO.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be kind of like a little bit leaning into perhaps like what would you call it? Like the Frontiersman of America kind of vibe? Am I getting that sort of?
It's that game that I played, Worm.
Yeah, a little. But perhaps a little more fantastical. It's also like the number one game on Steam right now, so it seems to be doing well. Unlike Amazon's other projects.
Yes, but that for an MMO doesn't necessarily mean much. It could easily shut down after like 2 months.
True, it could fall off immediately. But the news around New World isn't so much that it's like doing well and that it's, Amazon actually published a thing that might actually be good. It's that people are reporting that this game burns graphics cards. So 3090s and 3080s like seem to be just physically crumbling under the weight of this thing. Smoke, burn a nation, ruined. Ruined.
Is this particular line of graphics cards?
Yeah, so that's the current theory, is that actually it's not New World's fault in particular, but they are potentially using features of the most, the 30 series of NVIDIA GPUs,
right,
in a certain way that actually highlights flaws in certain manufacturers' cards. Excuse me for a second. Ahem. I'm breathing too much of that GPU smoke. So that's I think Power GPU is the outlet that reported this as their theory, because this was apparently seen in the beta, like where people were having bricked cards during the beta period of this. So the massive influx of players that has accompanied the launch has suddenly made this a big deal again, because it's like, yeah, it's happening again. This isn't necessarily new, but there's just a lot of confusion out there. Like it seems like an awful lot of consumers think this is a bug with the game, because it seems that New World is doing something that other games don't, which is fair enough, I suppose. That's what you'd immediately assume. But as I said before, Power GPU seem to be suspecting this is actually just highlighting a manufacturing flaw. So maybe don't buy a 30 series GPU if you're thinking about it right now.
If you can even find one to buy.
If you can find one, yeah. You might call the 80. Yeah, I did actually have a little look at specking out some new PC gear recently. And it's like,
Yeah.
As long as you don't look at graphics cards, prices don't seem too bad.
Right.
Like they weren't
Then
bad.
as soon as you do.
They weren't as bad as I was expecting. Because basically, what's happening is like my PC has a power supply problem right now. It will.
Yeah.
At the risk of this podcast going weird, it's like my PC could die at any moment.
Right.
Although it tends to like die within like the first half an hour of you turning it on, and then it's fine forever. Still, I've got that problem, so I've ordered myself a new power supply. But while I was there, I couldn't help but have a little shufty at what building a new machine would be.
Yeah.
And I haven't planned on doing the graphics card. Apparently, like RAM hasn't really changed in the last 5 years, so I can use my existing RAM, which is great, and probably run it at the speed it's supposed to run at. Rather than,
Right.
And if I bought a decent motherboard and a decent Ryzen, because I'm probably going to flip to AMD.
AMD seems to be the thing.
I mean, it came in at under £900 for those. Oh, and an NVMe drive.
Yeah.
For those 4 items, it came in at about £900, and I'm like, you know what? That's not as much as I was expecting, given the chip shortage. It's like these individual bits aren't as inflated as I was expecting.
How big a boot drive would you get?
So that would be a terabyte if I was going for an NVMe drive. Yeah,
seems decent.
Yeah, and you can get away with 500 gig fairly easily. And I'm not short of hard disks at the moment. I've got like 6 or 7 in this PC right now. I've got a lot. But I just want some. If I was going to get like a decently M2 capable motherboard, and with Windows 11 on the corner, or around the corner, not on the corner. I'd consider getting a drive for it.
Just wondering if you had a NAS that had all your storage, basically of movies or whatever you store, then like how much would be enough to not have any hard disks in your PC? Right. Just getting.
Yeah, I mean it's weird in our case because it's like in my case I'm a bit of a strange user, right? Because I do so much with this machine. I don't just play games. I'm doing video work. I'm doing music work, and those 2 things take up a ridiculous amount of space. Unless you're deleting as you go, which I do also do, but then we don't keep the master copies of things, because it's just ridiculous to try and do that. So I am using a lot of hard disk space, but like I've got disks that I thought had died. Like the reason why I've got so many drives is there was a point where like I thought two of my ancient hard drives that have been in this thing for like 10 or so years, like, and have moved from machine to machine. It's like they were starting to get a bit dodgy, so I bought 2 SSDs to replace them. But those two other drives are still fine. It's like they're still going. Like they had their moment of weakness and are now okay. So I've just ended up with those, and I'm using those as extra backup storage as well as my NAS drive, which I use for the final copies of videos and things like that. That's where all that goes. So I've got plenty of storage, but it's SATA SSD speed is not NVMe drive speed. So
no, of course not.
So there. The other thing that's bothering me, I don't know if you've this is probably not an issue for anyone other than me, but like Windows 11, one of its requirements is you need now to have UEFI and Secure Boot turned on. And my system kind of doesn't right now, simply because, I've brought up my installs from, especially my music and video environment. Like that's old now. That's an ancient install of Windows that has come up from 7 into 10, and the hope would be to move it into 11, but that's all pre-Secure Boot, so none of those are installed UEFI or Secure Boot happy. And there are ways of converting it, but it's like I may be reaching the point where, and I've put it off intentionally for years, I've probably reached the point where I need to start again.
Yeah, at long last, yeah.
Which is frustrating, because that's going to be a hella ball ache.
Yeah, it's going to be annoying.
But it might need to be done. So, yeah, and I don't know whether to do the whole keep things separate for the gaming platform versus the production platform, which is how I've got it right now. With my dual boot, like the Fire, my gaming side is very clean. Actually, I've kept that very clean. Whereas Ice, which is what I call my production side, is a mess. It's just filled with software and filled with things from a decade or so of cruft.
A Paintshop Pro in there, have you?
Probably, yeah.
Version 7.
6 or 7, yeah, probably still hanging about. That's where my copy of Photoshop CS6 is still running. Things like that. It's like, because I ain't paying that CC cost. Get out. Yeah, I don't know. I'm dreading it. I'm really dreading it.
Doing the thorough cleanup. Like I used to be, when I was a teenager, I used to be kind of excited about doing the full restart cleanup. But now it's like, no.
I mean, for my game side, it's fine. The bit I'm like, I'd love to keep Ice as it is and just move it up to 11. Maybe even don't move it up to 11, leave it on 10. But the secure boot thing is a problem because like dual booting, I've had trouble getting UEFI and Legacy to live together in the past, because I think the first Windows 10 install I did on this thing was in UEFI mode, because it said, like, use the new stuff. And I'm like, yeah, all right, use the new stuff.
Right, yeah.
And then when I tried to dual boot, it was like, no, that doesn't work. And I'm like, ugh, okay, what do I do? So I just pushed everything into Legacy and it's been fine. But if Windows 11 requires secure boot and if I run into dual boot trouble, I'm stuck. Or leave Ice on 10 forever, which I can only do for so long because I want to stay in that support window. Anyway, personal problems, personal PC issue. PC master race, more complicated than it needs to be sometimes.
Yeah. All of that, and can't get a graphics card anyway. So.
Can't get a graphics card anyway. I'm like, if you want like a 3080, I think it's like over $1,000 still.
Yeah. And that's like the one you'd want, right? The 3080 non-TI is like the standard, very powerful but not ridiculous one.
Yeah.
But that's the one that you can't get.
Yeah. Although the jump to the 3090 is significant.
Yeah, but the 3090 is like a joke, isn't it? It's it's basically a Titan, isn't it?
Also, I'm wondering if we're that far away. I mean, it feels. My concept of time is a little bit
right.
off. But
How far are we from the next one?
Yeah, how far are we from the 40s?
Who knows?
Yeah. Anywho,
ridiculous.
The only other bit of news I had was that Netflix are buying Night School, who are the developers of Oxenfree and are currently working on Oxenfree 2, but are also the developers of the somewhat hated After Party. I say somewhat hated. I hated it. But Oxenfree was good. But
Netflix buying video game studios in general is a little bit strange.
That's a weird one. Yeah, this is their first studio purchase, unless they've got some in-house stuff. But I guess the question here is not whether Netflix owns them or not. It's like, what is their delivery plan?
Yeah.
Like, are they somehow going to make this work over the app and your TV? Is it going to be cloud gaming? In which case, Night School might be a sensible pick because their games are narratively driven, not really responsiveness driven. So maybe it's like interactive storytelling through the Netflix app somehow.
Right. Try to expand on that Bandersnatch, whatever.
Yeah,
concept.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I suppose that's kind of intriguing. We'll see. Well, we don't know anything, so I guess we find out.
I mean, unless they saw what Game Pass is doing and was all like, no, we want to be the Netflix of games. We're Netflix.
Well, exactly. But Microsoft have got a console, and they also have the operating system of most PCs.
Yeah, they're going to struggle.
So they're in a slightly better position.
I mean, unless that's the thing, unless your Netflix subscription does grant you access to a little bit like how Game Pass does, you can just download these things on PC. It's like, or maybe mobile if the game can run on mobile. Like maybe it just opens up avenues for that. Although Apple might have a problem with that. I don't know.
A fully cloud streaming like Stadia type thing would be the more obvious one for Netflix, but like Google couldn't make Stadia a success, or at least not fully.
No, that was because of their ridiculous. Although everyone kind of agrees it's like, okay, Stadia, the streaming tech is pretty good now, but it's still not perfect. So number one, all that aside, Stadia's pricing model is universally reviled. Right.
Whereas Netflix, they would just include it in Netflix.
Put it on your subscription. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it's like a slightly different tier of subscription, just like the HD version. Yeah, pay a bit more.
Maybe if you've got Netflix Premiere or whatever it's called, the 4K tier, you just get this. Or
and that would work, right? Potentially. I might even consider using that. To be fair, if I'm already paying for it.
Yeah. If you already get it, what's the deal?
Exactly.
Which then casts a little shadow over what? Okay, your move, Amazon. What you're doing with Prime? Do you care? They probably don't care right now. They're just trying to get games off the ground, like any game.
Yeah.
And that's news.
Not quite.
Oh, the surprise interjection.
Speaking of things that Apple probably doesn't like,
right?
Well, and another thing as well. But it's time for the vaguely remembered legal news section, because I'm real bad at remembering the specifics of these specific kinds of stories.
Yes, we are.
Yes. But so the Blizzard Activision thing is still going on.
Right.
There hasn't been much else to report about that. They've settled one part of it.
Which, okay.
One of the
it's a class action, is it?
I
presume.
I don't know if that one, because it's California, right? Is the
it's the state of California.
Yeah,
California
that
versus that bit's still going on, but they settled a different bit with like some other government branch or something, and it was a really tiny fine or whatever,
fine,
like 20 million, which is basically zero.
I mean, it's not nothing, but in Blizzard terms,
exactly.
it's kind of low.
It's basically zero. So there's that. But on the Apple front, first the Apple versus Epic thing.
I thought we sort of vaguely... Is there any news on that? Well, we sort of mentioned it last time.
It's basically done.
That's done. That's over, yeah.
And, well, to summarise it real badly... to summarise it real badly is that Apple won everything apart from one specific thing, which is maybe the thing that they like the least, which is basically they can't... You're not allowed to have a store built into Apple's system, but you're not. Apple isn't allowed to stop you from telling people that you have a different store.
They can do it elsewhere. Yeah,
yeah.
Which, it's because I think we may have. This may be corrections column actually, because I think I may have mentioned it and got that a little wrong on our last podcast. I thought that it had swayed more, as in you could allow other payment platforms on, but maybe not.
No.
I don't know how I feel about this ruling, because it is kind of...
Well, the second part of that story is it doesn't really matter what you care about that, because it's going into appeals. So basically wait many years.
Could all change.
And also because of appeals, Fortnite isn't going to be able to get back on the Apple store for however long these appeals take.
Yeah.
So Apple is basically just being like, fuck you, Epic. You think you've won, but you haven't. Because we're going to continue to stop you from putting Fortnite on here, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then the last
there's an argument to be made, if Fortnite don't have their own payment processor in, can Apple still block it? It's despite everything. If Fortnite just were fine, this is how it's played out, we're just going to take our payment provider out of this and tell you to go to epic.com and pay for it there.
Well, I think
maybe at a discount.
I don't think at this point it's because it's tied up into the legal thing. They just can't do anything.
No, not until appeals end. But if it came to that and everything was over, say everything was over and Apple still blocked it, there'd probably be some other case to think, Apple, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
you can't do that.
The one thing that might be kind of weird about basically you're allowed to tell people to go to your store instead of doing it inside Apple is that presumably the contracts surrounding this whole thing would still require price parity on alternate storefronts, right? You wouldn't be able to say,
I don't know.
You can come to our store and it's cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's any clause there that would stop them.
Because presumably that must already exist, because there surely are games on Apple that already have alternate storefronts, that just not in this one specific, very legal way that you can't have it inside the Apple ecosystem, but as a parallel.
Right, yeah. If you buy it through our system, it can't be more expensive than an alternative.
I would assume that must already exist, but
maybe, yeah. I mean, it's something that could easily be written into their terms and conditions, and is probably legally perfectly allowed.
Yeah, it's just that in this one, now that with this one specific bit of legal option where you are allowed to say to go to another store, you have to assume the price parity must be a thing, or otherwise it'd be really weird.
Mm.
But it does make sense for so does this mean now, because wasn't it like you download the Netflix app and it's like sign in, but it can't tell you go to netflix.com and sign up for Netflix, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But now it can presumably tell you to go to netflix.com.
Yeah, because I don't know how apps like that work. Like if you had to, presumably Netflix and people like that just wouldn't let you buy through the iPhone, but maybe they would, because like if you bought the subscription to Netflix through the phone, Apple take their cut, right? Of the whole subscription, and it's
they didn't do that, so I think
right.
It was just like super confusing. If you
so they're not even allowed to say go. They weren't allowed to say to go to Netflix and pay for it there.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
So this makes. I mean,
now they can do that.
Yeah, which makes sense, right?
Totally. Yeah.
The knock on from this is like, hey, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, you guys don't need to worry. You can keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Although the funny thing that sort of came out relatively recently is like Microsoft were talking about Windows 11's App Store and how it's had like a total overhaul, supposedly. Unfortunately, not backporting that to Windows 10, apparently. Like it's in 11. But Microsoft actually came out and said, and if you want to use your own payment provider, that's fine. We don't care. We just want your apps on Windows.
Yeah.
Like they specifically went out of their way to say that.
And then the last bit of news, which is another thing that Apple is not going to be a fan of. Apparently, the European Union have declared that any portable electronic device has to charge through USB-C. You're not allowed to have proprietary cables for charging ports any longer.
That's a weird ruling.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how enforceable it is or how much it will stick.
But that's,
I mean, it will.
But what if a successor comes along? What if you make a connector that's
better?
Well,
then they'll update their law. Yeah. I mean, it's just like USB-C is the one they've chosen for now.
I kind of think this sucks. Actually, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, don't get me wrong, standards make sense, and like having a device that has USB-C on it is probably helpful. Like, because you're more likely to come across someone else with a compatible thing to charge your thing.
Yes, that is kind of the point.
I kind of like that. But what if, as I said, like, what if a phone comes up with something better? Like, what if Lightning is better? Like, I don't know the stats well enough to make that call. Like Apple should be within their. I think Apple should be within their rights to use it. It's like I don't like it because I don't like Apple stuff and I don't like proprietary stuff.
You could get into a situation where you can just have have two ports.
Oh, that's even weirder, right?
I mean, you could have different standards of because USB Type A connector can do USB 1 and USB 2 and different standards through the same connector, right? And this would be the same. It's like the standard is the connector, right?
USB-C. Yeah. So you can, all that's going to happen is we'll just end up with adapters. Like adapter in the box. Like you need to be able to charge this over USB-C. Well, that's fine, but we've like put an adapter in the box so you can change our proprietary to USB-C.
Yeah, but then why would you keep the proprietary though? In that case,
because it might be smaller. Like, I don't know, what if someone? Because Lightning is tiny.
Yeah,
right?
but if you're using an adapter and the device doesn't have any port apart from USB-C, there's no point in having the adapter.
Or what if everything moves to Qi charging? Like, what if someone puts out a device that doesn't charge with a wire?
Well, then they're probably exempt. I think it's only saying if you're using a wire to plug into this device and it's a portable device, it has to be a USB-C wire.
Yeah, because a bit of me was thinking about this. It's like, what about my watch? My watch charges wirelessly, and that's the only way to charge it.
That's fine. I think it's about time. They've been talking. The problem was they were talking about this years ago, and it would have been like micro USB or something, and that would have been bad. But I think USB-C,
USB-C is better, but micro
that's the standard, and even Apple are moving towards. If you buy an iPad right now, it's USB-C.
I say USB-C is better. The USB-C port on my Samsung S8 is garbage. Like it always has been garbage. Cables don't fit properly.
It's supposed to be to reduce like
E-waste,
or
yep.
whatever. Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
And the Apple are already like saving money. Like they got typical like Apple. They got the chip ripped out of them for doing this because they've taken the charger out of the box.
Oh no, they've done a Nintendo.
You no longer get a charger with your iPhone, and then like all their Android rivals were like, "That's stupid," and advertised that they did, and now they've changed, obviously, so they no longer. So now if you get a high-end smartphone, it doesn't come with a charger anymore across the board, pretty much. Yeah. For like environmental reasons, i.e., saving money.
And also, I'm kind of, but that one I'm not entirely against. Like, it doesn't make sense in Nintendo's case where they didn't ship it with the bloody DS because the DS has a proprietary goddamn connector.
Yes,
like that sucked.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But I don't know. Phones have got to the point where everyone must have a thing that you plug into the wall and has a USB-A socket on them, right? And you plug a USB-C cable. A to C cable in and you're good.
That's what you want.
Like, so I don't
and
really
you can charge your Switch with that.
Yeah.
You can charge your iPad with that.
I mean, if they and if you need one, you buy one. Like I don't have a problem with that. Like USB-A socket chargers have got to the point where that's acceptable.
I can actually
to a
charge
point,
my
right? Because there are variations in that, right? Because it's like the charger you used to get with an iPad was not the same as the charger that came with the iPhone for a while.
It's the power. It's the
exactly,
wattage,
yeah.
Right? As long as you have a high enough wattage and there's a decent power supply, it will work with a lower. So, for example, the very high wattage, I think it's up to like 95 watt USB-C power supply for my MacBook Pro charges the Switch totally fine.
Right? Yeah. Well, of course, because there has to be a handshake to enable the higher power. Which is fine, but it's like the risk is that people only have the low power ones, right?
Yeah. It's like trickle charge. You can barely charge an iPad with an iPhone
charger. My old iPad 3 doesn't charge over USB anyway. You plug it into a laptop, and unless the iPad's turned off, it doesn't gain any power.
Right. Yeah.
Because the batteries on the 3 were terrible. But
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think it's broadly good, and like. I think Apple saw it coming, for example, so they'll be getting rid of Lightning. But they haven't. They've just launched a new iPhone and it's still got Lightning. But next time,
yeah, they snuck it in.
I mean, they've been doing it with the iPad, so
I don't know. I just want to. I guess I just want to know what happens if someone comes up with something better. Like, what's the play? Like, can you just not do it? Can you not just make a phone like anymore, or do you have to? Yeah, I don't know. It's that element of stifling. It feels like it's a little bit stifling of progress.
Potentially,
yeah.
I do think it's heading towards no sockets at all.
I think I generally disagree with the EU on technology more than I agree. Like I like
stuffy and
yeah. I mean, I'm generally quite pro EU, but like on tech, they tend to get things a little wrong. Like I hate those volume limit warnings that are in EU regulation, so you can't turn a volume up past some like absurdly quiet point to my ear anyway, which probably means I've got hearing damage. But
no, I'm the same.
I hate that warning. It's so annoying because it resets it to below that warning if your phone turns off. Because I have my phone set to reboot every now and then, and then I'll get in the car and it'll be like, "Why is this so quiet?" And it's like, "Oh, it's because it's like set the volume to below the damn limit for some reason." So I have to go through a little. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm damn sure. I do this every time. Please go away forever. And cookie laws. Grr.
The cookie classic.
Anyway, we're running very long and we haven't started talking about games yet.
Are we running long? We're not. Well, I mean, yes, like technically we are. We're not running long yet, but in terms of me not having the game section, then yes,
we will be.
Well, you better start talking about games then. What have you been playing, Zeg?
Well, luckily not that much, so I can get through this pretty quick. I played I played the classic Duspderg. Yep.
Yeah. Dyson Sphere Program and Deep Rock Galactic.
Yep, played both of those. Dyson Sphere Program has just introduced achievements, so now you can get a lot of way more achievements than Factorio, but on average easier.
Right.
Although there are a couple of these are a bit ridiculous. I mean, obviously the speedrun achievements. It's like the thing about those in Dyson Sphere Program is I'm not as well experienced in like, you know, how to get through that game quickly or what the numbers are like. Like it says in like there's the slightly slower version where it's like 25 hours, and then the fast version which is like 10 hours. And I'm like, I don't know how long that actually is.
Right.
I've never tried to do it fast, I guess, to see how possible that might be, or even what like it says complete the game, and like the last technology in the tech tree is complete the game, so you have to get to there. And I don't think there's anything in that. Well, there's like maybe one or two technologies in that tech tree that are optional, but I still think you'd probably have to do it all.
Right, yeah.
But I don't think you'd have to actually make a Dyson sphere. I think you could get away with just solar sails. So it's like you do kind of avoid one of the major parts of that whole game, I guess.
You mean its name?
Yeah. So there's those, but then there's like there's all the regular sort of progress achievements. There's a couple of like slightly weird ones. There's the basically AFK achievement where it's just like fly to a different star before you've unlocked warp drive.
Oh God!
Which luckily doesn't take that long. If it's like I'm like the nearest star to my starter planet in this new save file was only like 3 light years, which obviously it's not actually real light years. It says fake light years. It's all scaled.
Some
but
compressed, yeah.
traveling at like 2,000 meters a second, it only took like an hour both ways. So it's semi AFK. Just watch a couple of videos while it's trundling you around.
Yeah.
Because you don't even have, there's no, once you've started going in the right direction, you don't have to worry about it. It's space.
You can watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in that time.
So I got that done. But yeah, and then there's a few other like weird achievements where it's just like do things that you really have no reason to do. Like eject a bunch of titanium while you're in orbit to be like, oh, it's, destroying the planet, but with like orbital strike, except not really because it doesn't do that. But it's referencing that idea. Titanium rods, as you do. And then a couple of where it's like run out of fuel while you're in space and get stranded.
Okay,
but you can do that. Like I think that achievement actually has a sort of a bypass for it, which is like I went up into space, emptied my fuel chamber where your fuel gets burned.
Oh, I see. It counted that as being out.
Well, no, and then I ran down the actual charge bar, but it also detects whether you have fuel in your inventory. But what it doesn't detect is if the fuel in your inventory is currently on your cursor. So you can just pick the fuel up out of your inventory into your cursor, and then the achievement pops, and then you just put it in your fuel bay. So I got that done. Not that it's that bad, like theoretically, providing the trouble with it is like if you're not very experienced in the way flying works in that game, and like the way the fuel is used to turn you and the slight effects of gravity and orbital mechanics, you can get yourself like flying in a completely ridiculous direction and then run out of fuel, and it takes ages to counteract that. But if you sort of know what you're doing, you can probably quite easily set it up to just be like, I'll just launch myself on a direct line to this other planet, and then it won't matter if I run out of fuel because I'll just crash into that planet anyway.
That's good enough.
And then there's other ones where it's just like run out of fuel and fall into the ocean, run out of fuel on a gas giant, and then suck up some of the hydrogen to refuel yourself.
A lot of running out of fuel.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only so many different things you can do in this game, I guess.
I mean, there's a lot of failure achievements for failure, effectively.
Yeah, I mean, sort of failure. There's like build wind turbines on a planet without atmosphere.
I mean, Psychonauts 2 had a couple of those, so it's like have an achievement for failing, and I'm like, I hadn't failed.
No, well, yeah,
I got through that entire game without popping these failure achievements.
Well, I mean, those kind of failure achievements are the worst when it's like fail several times and you just don't.
Yeah,
it's just like, I got through the game without dying 100 times.
I got through the game,
so now I have to suicide a bunch at the end just to get this achievement.
Yeah, I got through Psychonauts without dying, and there's an achievement for running out of health and using the health restoration like emergency health thing. And it's like, well, I'm gonna have to just set this up, aren't I?
So yeah, there's a good 100 achievements in Dice Sphere program, and they haven't even in the most recent blog post for, I believe, an upcoming show in China, maybe, or it might be one of the Japanese ones. They're doing they're going to a convention or whatever to show off their shit, but they're starting to talk about adding combat, which has always been in the works in theory, but that's going to severely change that game because there's no combat at the moment. There's no threats. I mean, on your mech info panel, it tells you how much health you have, but obviously there's no way to lose the health at the moment.
Is it Save the Galaxy from the Nomads?
Potentially. I'm just wondering how it's even going to work because, the way that game works and the way a lot of games of this nature work is like it only really loads the part that you're at. Everything else is just simulated. It's not actually running.
It's doing the sort of statistical
calculation. But yeah, so I'm not sure how enemy attacks are going to work, or like what kind of defensive buildings are you even going to have. How is this going to function?
A big red light that says a thing is happening here.
I mean, hopefully it won't be like Planetary Annihilation, where the only way to defend yourself is just to fill the sky with aircraft because the enemy can come from anywhere. Because that would suck.
Well, a bit like could they do the Euphoria thing, where you've just got things in orbit around stuff?
I'm imagining it's probably going to be more in the Factorio style of like there'll be aliens on certain planets.
All right, deal with the local threats.
Yeah, clear them out.
Not galactic threats.
Rather than, I mean, there might be some space things, but it would just be really annoying to be like every planet has to have basically AA guns or whatever.
Oh, you mean a bit like that section of Spore?
Yeah. So there's that. And then Derg, I got back into that a little bit more this last couple of weeks, and Rob played it some as well.
We played around. We're getting to my promotion, finally.
Yeah, finally. We've maybe got one more mission to go until Rob finally promotes.
Yeah, because we think it ballsed up the last one, right?
Well, it was
we
weird.
weren't quite sure, yeah.
It's because I was playing a fresh character to play along with Rob, so we're in sync, essentially. But for some reason, my promotion mission on that character seemed to only have 4 steps, and Rob's looked it had 4, but now has 5 for some reason.
I think it had. Well, no, it has 4, and it still lists it as 4. But I think the mission it listed as the 4th one changed.
Right.
Like I don't quite know what happened. Like so we went and did the one that
selected it.
Yeah.
Like I selected and it completed my one, which should have been the same.
And then my one ended up being something else. It's like, how did that happen? Like,
but weirdly, like. I only vaguely remembered the time when I promoted my original character, but I thought that it actually was like longer because it does one of each mission type.
Right, yeah.
So I thought it was 5.
I mean, the intro is one of each type.
The intro one as well does that. But yeah, I don't know. So we still didn't manage to get Rob's promotion.
Yeah, don't quite understand what happened there. Unless it legitimately did just pick different things for our both our characters' last mission, and they were the same for the other ones. We just didn't notice.
Yeah, maybe.
But I could have sworn it was the same.
Yeah, I thought I selected your one specifically because it does tell you on that menu who
needs to do what
mission it is. So yeah, we've nearly got Rob's promotion, and
big update's not far away.
Well, yeah apparently. The second half, which was this modding update that's just been and gone, but now the actual weapon update.
Yeah, still waiting for something to I did have a quick look through the mod list, and I'm still waiting for something really interesting to come out. Because the one they advertised the whole thing was like the swarm multiplier, and they put so you could make ridiculous numbers of critters fill the things, and it's like that sounds cool, but you also need a balance to go with that to make it so everything dies in one hit, and then that could be hella fun.
Maybe. And then I also started playing one of the other characters. I've started playing the driller that I'd never played before. Because I was like, I've probably played enough gunner now that I've promoted him 4 times or whatever. Got him up to silver. It's like, let's go and try the driller for a while. And that's because I was saying about a while ago how the gunner's zipline is so useful, especially in single player.
Sure, yeah.
To actually be able to do that.
Just to get anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm wondering about how the other classes would even work in solo. The engineer's platform is obviously fine. Scout.
I mean, it's okay. It's still pretty awkward.
Yeah, Scout grapple is great, but the Scout maybe not as a combat class by itself.
Yeah,
and then the driller is where you have the drills, but drilling tunnels is not the best way to maneuver around these caves exactly. But I've been playing it, and it's okay, I can see how this does work well enough by itself.
You just have to cut your own paths all the time.
Yeah, you have to when there's there was one cave that I did recently where it's you have the entrance and exit of the cave and there's just a canyon in the middle, and it's well, that's annoying. Because if I want to go down into the bottom of the canyon, I have to dig a tunnel down, but I also have to dig a tunnel around the edge to go between the two sides. It's this is a lot of drill fuel. I've never actually run out of drill fuel though, so it's not been a problem.
I imagine it would have to be pretty generous. But, that character viable.
The much bigger problem with soloing the driller is you start with the flamethrower, which really doesn't do that much damage and runs out of fuel super fast.
Is that so you desperately need to upgrade that to make it viable? Or,
yeah, the upgrades do help.
Is it is the alt weapon
Well, I mean, I've just got to the alt weapon. It is quite a lot better for that. Well, for solo especially, because it's instead of a flamethrower, you get the freeze cannon where you just ice things instead, which is obviously super good because you can just prevent enemies from hitting you. Obviously, you just go shoop and they all get frozen, and then your robot friend just shoots them all and they just explode. It's well, that's way better than the flamethrower. Screw damage over time, just freeze everything. But the only trouble with the freeze cannon is, of course, it doesn't really freeze big enemies as well. You can get the Praetorians to freeze after you've dumped a shit ton of ammo at them. And the thing is, by that point, they've almost taken enough damage from just the cold damage that they're almost dead anyway.
It's not really worth it.
So yeah, the freeze cannon definitely is more useful for soloing, I guess. Unless you happen to be in the glacier maps, in which case maybe not the freeze cannon. Maybe bring the flamethrower to that one.
Is there local elemental effects like that?
Well, you get the frost Praetorians in the ice cannons, don't
you?
I
guess.
So they are resistant to frost. The regular enemies aren't, weirdly. The regular bugs, even in the glacier map, are still equally weak to ice. And another thing that was kind of cool about that is, if you bring the flamethrower to the ice map, it actually melts the ice if you fire it at walls.
Oh, interesting.
So you could theoretically dig a tunnel using just the flamethrower if you wanted.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool, but is kind of unhelpful when you're just making potholes everywhere basically when you're fighting because you're melting the floor.
How do you feel about? I mean, Deep Rock is one of those games that for me fits in the Left 4 Dead co-op experience category.
Yeah.
But with a bit more procedural going on. I don't know. How do you feel about I've heard a few places talking about the Left 4 Dead game is the next big trend, right? Are we getting there?
Because of all those ones they announced the last year, yes.
Yeah, Back for Blood and what is it, that vampire there's two vampire games, isn't there? They're doing both. They're doing a Battle Royale and a Left 4 Dead sort of thing, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember. There was that. Yeah, there was that. There's another one on the tip of my tongue that was announced, and I can't remember it. But yeah, it seems to be getting back to Left 4 Dead co-op experiences. There was that Alien one and, GTFO.
Yeah,
it's it's current trend. It's not the Battle Royale. It's the
Well, I mean, everyone did want a Battle Royale.
Yeah, it's done.
Except not quite. People are still trying to do it.
Don't think that Hyperscape did very well. That Ubisoft one. Don't hear anything about that since it launched.
No. But yeah, that's pretty much Derg. Got back into that slowly. And then
the Tom Clancy one. That's the other one. Contagion.
And then the last thing that I played some more of was just some more Oxygen Not Included, continuing that map that I was working on. That map has reached the point where I've got to the space missions again, where it's doing, it's that point in that game where you launch the space mission and then you have to wait 15 cycles for it to come back.
Right.
So you're not really doing much unless you can invent other projects to work on while you're waiting for the space missions to come back. So I've been thinking about whether I'm even going to continue at this point or whether I'm just done again.
Right, yeah.
I've been thinking about...
Until there's more updates.
Well, I mean, I've been looking at the DLC, the progress they've been making on that, and wondering whether it's about time I got into that, because...
Oh, is the DLC also early access then?
Yeah, basically. Except, I mean, it's not really... I don't know how they market it exactly, because, I don't think you can put a DLC into early access on Steam. I think it just has to be a DLC.
It's just out, but it's just work in progress. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the updates on that to see whether it's getting to the point where at least most of the content might be finished. And I think it's pretty close.
Maybe they sell it as like an expansion pass or something, and it's like, oh, you can see what this is like until it comes out.
Because the main thing about the DLC that is significantly different from the base game is it completely changes the space travel phase. You know, no longer having these like 20-day missions where you're just sending a rocket out and just waiting. Now, because in the DLC, the maps are much smaller, so you start with a much smaller area, so you get into the space bit earlier, so there's like cheaper versions of the rocket technology, so you can do it faster. And then the idea is you're actually meant to travel to the different planets to get the different resources, because each of the individual planets is more specialized.
Right, yeah.
So it actually kind of fixes the whole problem of the end game of the space phase.
Sure, and the space stuff is more active. You actually have to be involved with it.
Yeah, it's actually weirdly active in some ways that is almost awkward, where like when you build the rocket, you build the actual like rocket segments and you like have different engines for different fuels, but you actually have to go into the command capsule and like design the inside of the command capsule to like basically allow the pilot to survive. So you have to like have a little refrigerator or whatever in a bed, and you have to fit it into this like very constrained box.
So the oxygen not included bit is now actually for the flight as well as just living on the asteroid.
Because in the base game, when you shove a dude to fly the rocket, they basically just disappear. And in fact, if you never extend the gantry when the rocket lands, you can just keep him in there forever. And they just permanently fly the rocket somehow.
Just assume it's stasis.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I've been fiddling around with that map and wondering. The main thing I still think I might try on this map is seeing if I can set up a more automated rocket system. Because one of the big problems of automating rockets. Well, firstly, it's like the automation setup for how rockets automatically trigger launches can be a bit weird, because like the space scanner that detects when a rocket is incoming also detects when a rocket is launching. So like you have this weird problem of like a repeated signal essentially, and then like the rocket has an automation port that outputs a green signal when the checklist is complete, which includes like fuel loading and that kind of stuff. So that's maybe easy enough to trigger it off that, but then you also have to trigger the fuel pumps to refuel it, and like if you're setting yourself up so that the rocket fuels to a specific amount, there's now a slightly easier way to do that now, because there's actually from the DLC, one of the backported items is a valve that you can set how much you want to go through it before it shuts off.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually precisely load rocket fuel now, which is quite nice. And those can be automated, so it will reset the counter.
Reset back to the number you want it to be at.
Yeah. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, I was wondering whether I could maybe set up a fully automated rocket system, because the other thing that's I haven't really got into it ever in the rocketry of the base game is some of the planets have basically rocket fuel on them. I mean,
how handy.
Obviously all of them. I mean, there's several different choices for rocket fuel, but specifically, there's a planet that has liquid hydrogen on it, which is like the late game rocket fuel. I don't think there's one that has liquid oxygen, but there's ones that have solid oxygen, which you can just quite easily just melt into liquid oxygen. So I was wondering whether I could maybe set up like 2 rockets that are fully automated, that their only job is to just fly out and get hydrogen and oxygen to constantly refuel themselves and all the other rockets. Like, I wonder if that would actually be possible. Because the resources are technically infinite from the space locations, but they like regenerate over time.
I see. Yeah.
So you can only get so much
rate limited.
Yeah, essentially. So I was wondering whether that would actually be like net positive, especially on the hydrogen, because the hydrogen is quite hard to come by. Because on this map, I started off with because I normally make oxygen via the electrolysis, where it breaks it into oxygen and hydrogen, so you just have hydrogen. So through the whole progress of this map, I've just been storing the hydrogen. Firstly, I built a room that I was like, yeah, that's a big enough room. Clearly, it clearly was not a big enough room, because by the time I'd actually got to launching a hydrogen rocket, I'd basically extended this room 3 times, and it was basically covering almost half the side of the map in just a huge room full of hydrogen. I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. But it burns through it real quick, and also obviously once you condense it down to liquid hydrogen, it takes up practically no space comparably. I had this gigantic, 200 tile room of hydrogen gas which is pressurized to 20 kilograms per tile, you condense it down to liquid hydrogen, and that can be 1,000 kilograms per tile. So it's just like I have this tiny 5x4 room that contains all of that hydrogen, except now in liquid form. It's really kind of ridiculous, but you can't condense hydrogen down to liquid until you've done space missions, because you need supercoolant to actually be able to cool things down that far, and you can only make supercoolant from resources from space. So you have to do at least some missions using petroleum engines and all that stuff. So yeah, being able to have liquid hydrogen as a thing you can just get from space seems like it might be kind of nice.
Quite convenient.
Although, admittedly, you'll probably only be able to get 2,000 kilograms per trip, because I think you could probably only manage 2 liquid storage canisters, and I think those only do 1,000 kilograms each.
How much would it take to fly?
Yeah, I mean, that distance probably only 500 or 600 kilograms maybe, so it's not going to be massively profitable.
No.
Still more than enough to fuel itself, plus probably one other rocket, I would estimate.
Pays for its next flight.
So yeah, been fiddling around with that. But yeah, the DLC might be something that I may be more seriously looking into at this point. I think it might be getting towards that time. Probably also, because I've been playing it and I'm thinking about it, and I'm at this space point where it's well, this kind of sucks, but what if I went to the DLC where it's way better and completely different and a new puzzle to solve? Exactly.
Which is what you're always after.
Yep. And I play some Rocket League, obviously.
Segue point, I guess.
Yep.
I've been primarily diving into the extra modes and having
in your short periods.
In my short time games. I'm a little behind on target for the season. But yeah, I've been having a very mixed experience with that at the moment. But I did come across the physics in Rocket League are normally pretty tight.
Yeah.
And there's the odd moments where you can be it didn't seem quite right. This is the first time, I think, in the hundreds and hundreds of hours I've put into the game where there was a straight-up massive cocking glitch. And the ball, we were playing hoops.
Right.
And the defenders just sort of wedged it into they couldn't quite reach it in time and sort of mushed it into the hoop.
Oh, right. And because the hoop hitbox is actually kind of unusually small.
Yeah, it pinged right through it and the ball went mad, had a ridiculous amount of speed on it. And everyone in the chat just sort of stopped for a moment and just typed in, what the hell just happened? Because I don't think anyone in that game had seen that before. And it's I'd never seen that before. It was nuts. It's the biggest. The physics in Rocket League are impressively good for an online game.
Yeah.
They always have been. But I've never seen it glitch like that.
And normally, most of the time, even that act of pinching the ball against a solid surface, that reacts in the way you would expect.
It sort of just goes, and then something goes somewhere, but it not through it. It goes in the correct direction.
Yeah, it goes in the direction you'd expect it to. I
say correct. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit random, but that's the nature of that sort of collision. But
I mean, that to have that work at all in an online environment is still pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, servers having to do a hell of a lot of work to keep everything in sync.
So yeah, Rocket League.
Yeah. Plus, I got many. I'm in a lemon streak right now.
I've got out of my
I have to admit, I am usually the lemon, but no. Of late, I am not the lemon. It's when I'm leading everything, basically. When I'm doing everything, I almost want it's weird. I basically won a drop shot game on my own because the other guys just that. They went for aerials and missed it every time, which is normally my thing.
Yeah.
And it's that's I'm on a bit of a lemon run at the moment, which just happens. It's a thing.
So if you're on a lemon run and you get squeezed into the corner, does the physics do what you'd expect? Get some nice lemon juice.
Yeah, normally. Yeah. Although, if I want to talk about physics problems, it's drop shot is where a lot of them do come out normally, because there can be times when the ball's running along the floor and the floor is unbroken and it will clip an edge of the of the hexagons, the hexagon floor, and will suddenly ping into the air.
That seems weird.
I've seen that a few times now. It's not very frequent, but it can happen.
Guess they don't really expect the ball to ever be doing that.
No.
Because that's kind of the point of drop shot.
That's the most annoying thing when you set up like what you think is a beautiful like landing down onto the ball and it just rolls casually and you're like, how did that not count?
Yeah.
Rocket League. Shall I proceed?
Yes. Rapidly.
Psychonauts 2, I have finished it.
I really finished it.
I really finished it. Yeah, no, I have 100%ed it. I did the whole thing.
Shit.
Well, yeah, because the end. I would say like Psychonauts is one of those games where the end game isn't a huge amount of fun. Honestly, like once you've finished it and you've done the main thing, it's like what you've got left is a kind of dull collectathon. But I still went and did it because I was so close. I nearly had everything, but there are certain things I don't think you can do until you've 100% finished the game. It's like, I don't know. The end game has to make some weird choices. It's like the last power in the game, you have to get to Psychonauts rank 102. And in order to get to 102, you need to get absolutely everything in that game. You need to have collected everything, done every mission, do everything. And the power you get is unlimited power, effectively. None of your abilities have cooldowns anymore. But it's like, I don't need this anymore because I finished the game. I finished absolutely everything you have to offer, and you've given me a thing to do things with. It's like, yeah, you've not thought that through. Perhaps that should have been a few levels earlier.
But they couldn't have given you any power that would have made sense there.
Yeah.
The last power you get after finishing the game is just like turn the game off.
Yeah, I guess. Well, it could have been something like some cutscene or something.
Well, yeah, it could have been a non-gameplay thing.
Just throw a joke in there or something. Like, so that was a bit weak. But yeah, I think it's like my opinions on it haven't really changed since last time. I think it's like incredibly well presented. I think it's I think it definitely kicks up a notch towards the end, like in terms of like the presentation quality. I mean, the quality was good anyway, but like the last few segments, it's like they clearly up it, and it looks, the animation seems to improve somehow, and the effect quality seems to improve, and there are elements of creativity thrown in. And basically, I had a blast. Like I didn't want to play anything else really while I was going through Psychonauts. It's great. I don't love it as much as the first game. I don't think it hits quite the same level of weirdness as the first game. I don't think it ever quite gets there.
Yeah.
There isn't a Milkman equivalent. Like for me, there's nothing quite as odd and quite as entertaining as that. And obviously, we don't get the whole teeth. This is going to be hard to say. Teeth motif, like running or meat motif, wasn't it from the first game? That was like suspiciously running through every level. You don't really get that through line now. So I think it's missing some details here and there. I do think every level is very uniquely creative, but I don't necessarily think each one is necessarily as creative from a gameplay standpoint as they are visually and setting wise. I think like the settings are fantastic, but what you're actually doing in them doesn't necessarily vary enough. But I'm kind of clutching here, like honestly, like it's still great, but there's, if I was to pick holes, those would be the things. And again, picking holes. Narratively, I think they do the problem where they introduce a lot of characters here, and so there's the interns at the start of the game. There's a whole set of psychics you meet sort of like halfway towards the end, and then there's your own family who are in it and stuff like that. And there's so they introduce a whole lot of characters, sideline most of the previous characters, and then they sort of also sideline the characters they were introducing at certain points in the story. So the interns you meet throughout the start, and then they kind of go away for the second half of the game, and then sort of turn up at the end. So I'm not really feeling a particular like connection to anyone or anything massively. And the character I really wanted them to do more with, they didn't. So I was a little disappointed in that, because it seemed like he likes like, oh, you might be the most interesting person here. Oh no, never mind. Like, we're not going to focus on that at all. But it's generally still very good. I'm picking holes where most people wouldn't care. Honestly, it's just sort of out of I guess out of love from the first game and how neatly constructed that was, and there's where things aren't as good as that first game really stand out to me, and it's that's just my perspective on it. But it comes from the right place.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't quite live up to that first game in terms of that.
Yeah.
I mean, polish-wise, probably it's more modern.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it runs. It always runs
concept.
great. It always looks great.
Yeah.
They do some fun stuff with portals here and there, which I wasn't expecting. There's some neat little holes into spaces that shouldn't be in places. There's one in particular that threw me actually, like in a level towards the end. There was a particular turn and a particular bit of geometry that I didn't realize was a portal for ages, and it's just like, oh right, yeah, that can't exist in this space. That's pretty clever.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So that's
Good.
That's pretty good.
So good that it exists and it got made.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Even if it can't quite match the original, it's still a very positive thing.
Yeah.
That these things exist.
So yeah, we'll never see it again.
No.
They are kind of a little bit final on some of the storyline elements as well. So it's they could very well make more. It's not like it's over, but it's very neatly packaged this time. So yeah, I moved kind of straight from that into Sable, which came out.
Really?
On Game Pass and for both PC and Xbox. So yeah, I've talked about this several times in the lead up to it. I would call it, I think they've described it as being French comic book inspired in terms of its look. So very solid colours and black ink lines kind of look to it. Sort of cell shady, but sort of not at the same time. Excuse me. Yeah, and I played the demo of this earlier in the year, and the look is very striking. Like it's I think if you take a still of that game and look at it, it's consistently pretty good looking, or at the very least very unique looking at kind of any moment. They do. I mean, there's some nice tricks going on with there's a dynamic light system going on, but where colors change, it's always like a harsh gradation, and there's always one of those black lines between it. So shadow lines are always sort of weirdly woven in almost. It almost looks like a tapestry on screen at times, like how the black lines have to segregate the areas of color and things like that. So it's got a very unique look to it. And seeing those sometimes as they move across the ground, they don't move particularly steadily, but they kind of animate with a sort of wibbly Bezier curve kind of look rather than that more traditional harsh triangle fudged shadow look. And it's a whole even where the engine kind of has its little limitations, it's the look gets it out of that, which is nice. And I think they back that up with a really interesting soundscape as well. So that some of the music is done by Japanese Breakfast, as we know, because they kind of did she kind of performed the theme tune for it at, was it the last Summer Games or one of the last Jeff Keighley things anyway?
I like her.
Yeah, and it's decent, and it's I think her work pervades the kind of whole experience. The sound design is often kind of weird and ethereal and strange, and it fits that game pretty damn well. It's got a vibe going on.
Cool.
And speaking of vibes, the vibe is actually quite Breath of the Wild reminiscent, right? So they've made a vast open world and made it somewhat aimless, intentionally aimless. Once you've done the tutorial bit, which is the demo, you get your main hover bike, and you basically just said, "Here's the gate to the world. Go." And that's kind of it. You're then free to kind of go wherever you want in this world, and then see what people you meet and see what tasks you can pick up. So it's go forth. I guess the main difference between Breath of the Wild is that it's not nearly as dense naturally, because this is
right. Because Breath of the Wild is just full of stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff everywhere. This gives that sense of you actually kind of have to travel between places on your bike, and it can take a while just getting somewhere. especially towards the start of the game, and before you haven't got too many places discovered. You do get a fast travel system, so you can go back to places you already know pretty quickly, but without having to drive there, because driving there would take forever. But yeah, at first you're just doing that. You're just meandering about, trying to hunt down plumes of smoke, I guess, because there's always a settlement where there's smoke. Find the smoke, find the people, find the jobs. There's also no combat, so like the vibe is a little like there's none at all. There was none in the demo, and it's like I thought, oh, maybe this is going to expand out into something else. It's like no, it never does. There's no combat at all in this. It is just it's exploration vibes. Like I mean, it's got the Breath of the Wild stamina system for like climbing, so you can pretty much climb everything. So like the game's core mechanics end up revolving around find place, platform to the things that you find interesting in that place or that you need to do for someone's quest, go somewhere else, and that's the whole game. So it's quite a relaxed experience overall. It's not, as I say, or at least it kind of would be if it wasn't plagued by a hell of a lot of bugs and performance issues.
Oh, God damn it!
It is.
Why?
I know, it's such a shame because I'm into it. I'm quite enjoying it, but it is not polished. It's like if you're looking on the Xbox dashboard and you see that optimized for Series X, Series S tag, and it's like the word optimized is loose.
Right.
It runs like garbage. Like on a Series X, it runs terribly. Like in the opening area, like it's kind of hitting 60 pretty regularly. It's a little hitchy, but in some spots in the open world, you're going to hit sub 30 in places. Like the performance really tanks in spots. It's kind of nasty, and I don't know if that's just because their graphic style is just pushing things too much because it's having to try and deal with too many black lines how it's rendering them. So maybe the technique they're using isn't right for those areas. But sometimes it seems to tank in indoor areas, and it doesn't seem that like there's a lot going on there. So maybe their culling mechanism isn't good, or for whatever reason, like it doesn't run good on a Series X, and that's a problem. Like, I've heard these problems are actually somewhat transferable to the PC, but obviously the PC has a little bit more leeway because you've got graphic settings, and you can mess with things a bit, or maybe not run it at 4K, which you don't really get a choice of on the Xbox. So it's like that's a problem, but it's not a deal breaker. Where things do get slightly more problematic are that the mechanics just there's not that much in the way of mechanics, but sometimes they break. Like, so I've had periods of time where I've just been unable to talk to people. Like the text bubbles just stop appearing above people's heads. And usually that's temporary. Like it will last a few minutes and then it will come back on its own. You
can't get any kind of quests or anything.
But yeah, exactly. I can't do it. Like there are plenty of quests that involve talking to things or interacting with things. And it's like, if you can't do those, you're buggered. I've had it so those same speech bubbles appear on plants. And you don't interact with plants; they don't talk to you.
You're not suddenly just playing everything.
No,
I can see the thoughts.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of strange when like all the plants in this room suddenly start popping up with speech bubbles that I can't do anything with. The audio gets stuck every now and then, so there's a particular set of quest lines you can get to, and it always transitions into this bit of sort of more percussive bit of music, but that music never turns off once you've triggered it. So you could then go off into the world and have other bits of music start playing, but they'll start playing over the top of this other bit of percussive music. And the only way to solve that is to reboot the game. It's a real shame. Annoying. Like, because otherwise, the game would be pretty high up there, I think, in terms of just like having a nice time. You know, it's not, it's there may not be too much to it, but it's a relaxing end of day thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
But not when you have to keep rebooting it.
Yeah, and it seems to be getting worse the further I get into it. Is the other thing. So I don't know if it's like
have you
one
heard
of those
anything about if it's this version of the game or the Xbox Series X version or what's going on with it.
I mean, I've tried looking this up, and it does seem to be like the general review consensus is like, yeah, this would be great if it wasn't for the bugs.
Annoying.
And I think most people have been playing it on an Xbox, as far as I can tell, from the reviewers. So I don't quite know how it stacks up on PC. Particularly, maybe that's the place to try it. But the problem is, it's hard to tell. So if you started on PC on Game Pass, it's like you've really got to get out of that tutorial area and find somewhere complex to really see if you're going to have these issues. So you might have to get a ways into it before you know. So it's not something I'm probably willing to try at this point. I'm like maybe 10 hours in, and it's like, I'm not going to play again. I'm not going to start again just to solve these issues. But then again, some of them have been fun, right? So I've had I went to speak to a guy about his goats once, and I could hear the goats, but they weren't there. And then I went out into the open world, and then somewhere in the middle of this desert, I just see these goats flying in the air. And it's like, are those the same goats? Are these the ones that were missing from the ranch? So there's the occasional funny thing. But generally the writing's pretty good as well, and the interactions, and it goes for this really weird animation style, where it's it's not even it's sort of evoking the whole Spider-Man I animate on twos thing, right? The Into the Spider-Verse thing, where you intentionally under animate. And this is kind of that. It's like all the characters in the world intentionally under animate, so they're a bit choppy. Which kind of looks fine in the run cycles, but some of the other interactions look really jank as a result, and some of the cutscene cutaways don't quite work as a result. But it's an interesting style. It's interesting that what I can see what they're going for. I don't think they quite nail that part, but it's or maybe it's supposed to evoke more of the comic book freeze frames at times. Sort of here are the poses they're supposed to be in, and there's nothing in between. But yeah, and sometimes that system breaks, to be honest. There's some of the animations are pretty awkward, and some of the animations are in cutscenes or moments where I've got a text bubble on screen will sort of loop, but not a forward back loop. They'll loop from a starting point, get to an end point, and then jump back to the start, and that animation will play again. And I've seen that happen in the middle of cutscenes sometimes as well, where their animation seems to have played twice, weirdly. So it's just lacking polish. It's this game needs to be baked for maybe a good few more months. It's not there. Core experience decent, but yeah, technically a bit of a mess. Bit of a shame.
Kind of a shame. I think its moment in the sun will be over by the time
they sort it out. Yeah. I don't know if you can, as an indie developer, put something out without an early access tag like this and get away with it quite so easily. I mean, it's on Game Pass, so I'm sure it will do well. And it's it is getting a fair amount of media attention for its look alone. Yeah. And for its vibe.
And that is a good thing. The Game Pass can lift up things that you wouldn't pay money for
exactly
directly.
Yeah, so I'm sure it will do all right, but it will be remembered, unfortunately, as being this as having these problems. It's the Cyberpunk problem, just not on the same scale.
Not quite the same scale as Cyberpunk, but yeah. Oh, Cyberpunk! What a shame.
So there's that. I'm sinking most of my time into that. I think I've got still a fair amount left to do on that. And I have just scratched the surface of Artful Escape, which is oh man, I don't even know where to begin on how to describe this thing. This has been it's basically a sci-fi rock opera kind of thing, presented in a sort of 2D 3D-ish look to it, and the game starts off feeling like a night school studio game. Weirdly, this is a bit like Oxenfree. This is gonna there's you're having conversations with people. It's popping up very similar looking speech bubbles. It's well voice acted. The cast in this is bonkers, by the way. like the Psychonauts cast was pretty good. The cast in Artful Escape, oh boy, they've got some names. Most of which I can't remember right now, annoyingly. but
names.
Yeah, I know.
Those voice artists have some real names.
But like Mark Strong's in it, for instance. I remember that one. Jason Schwartzman's in it. Yeah. But those, yeah. It's got. I mean, even Gnome looked at that list as it was playing during the like title sequence, and it's just like, oh really? They got them? Wow. they've done well here. I mean, this is coming off the back of like 12 minutes recently, like having James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe. It's like games with good casts suddenly of late.
Yeah.
And yeah, the voice acting in this is very, very good. The only thing I would really say, like, okay, yeah, it goes from being if you've seen any of the trailers, is like you tell there's more to it than just being a walk around town, talk to people game. It goes mad with like neon guitars and wailing solos and bonkers sci-fi madness, like from 70s comic books happening in the background. And you're just taking part in all of it. But that's kind of all you're doing, right? This is my thing. It's like it's less of a game and more an experience.
Right.
Which means I don't think it's very long. It's like I think I've only played it for like an hour and a bit, and I'm like a third of the way through it, according to the chapter select. So it's like, don't expect this to be a long experience, but it is I'm finding it crazy enjoyable. It's
cool.
There isn't, like, as I say, there's not much to do. You're just sort of going along with it, and it's a ride, man.
Yeah, I'm up for those kind of interactive experience type things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even averse to a walking simulator now and then. So
absolutely, yeah.
It's definitely into Firewatch, the likes of that.
So yeah, I'll finish that off and give you a more thorough response to it next time. But
cool.
Yeah, so far, good job, Beethoven and Dinosaur.
Yeah,
fantastic developer name, by the way.
Cool.
And that'll do me.
Yeah. Oh, are we getting towards the end here? How are we doing?
Damn right, I think we are. My stomach is saying it might be pizza time.
As it always is.
Time. Well, I played some more Breath of the Wild. I just did the Rito Divine Beast, the Van Meadow or whatever. That one is short, man.
Yeah, a little
that
bit.
one, I mean, there's some shrines longer than that one, I reckon.
Which one's that, sorry?
The bird.
One. Oh, right, yeah, that is a short one, yeah.
Yeah. Do they have the same number of terminals each? Because that one is like, do one top of the wing and then the bottom of the wing and then the other wing and then you're done.
It's because the gimmick of that one is the least complex.
Yeah, it's the most simple. I mean,
tilting.
it's cool because
I suppose the
banking.
water one technically is probably actually the simplest.
Well, yeah, but like knowing the way that the elephant's trunk has to go to actually go to the
I think there was more.
I mean, that is kind of trial and error. Though.
Yeah,
whereas
with
the banking, it's either on or off, like one way or the other.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, didn't take long, that one. But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, it's just like there's so many like areas that are just like not part of the main. I mean, there's one thing like I finally went up to Akala or whatever, and there's the tech lab up there, obviously. But you could probably I don't know. You don't even need to go up there.
No, there's basically nothing required in Akala.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the game you cannot do, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, you can skip, but yeah, it's cool. But yeah. What a game. Yeah, exactly. It's like full of stuff everywhere, which is just cool.
I had that sort of thought process. I was watching an 8-bit music theory video that came out recently talking about the ocarina and the limitations.
Oh, I saw that too.
Yeah,
that was
great video, by the way. Props to 8-bit music theory.
Really
because that was also like, you know, Koji Kondo is an absolute legend, obviously. And it's just like...
Total genius, yeah.
Yeah. But I had that moment where it's just like, damn, man, Ocarina of Time. And I never finished that one.
It's ridiculous. It's just... I can see how people are like... Because I can sometimes on Reddit, I'm like, no, man, Link to the Past is the best, or like Majora's Mask is cooler.
I mean, they're all
It's
acceptable.
Like, come on, man.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, I think they're all acceptable opinions. Like, they're all
absolutely.
they're all wildly great games, but like, come on, man,
It's
Ocarina, come on.
It's Ocarina, come on.
Even if Twilight Princess was the first one I ever finished, and I do really like that one. Actually, it might be the only one I've ever finished. No, the DS one, or is it Link Between Worlds? I finished that one. Those might be the only two Zelda games I've ever finished.
Twilight Princess and Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, it's a weird batch, right?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, good. I mean, Link Between Worlds is good, right?
I mean, they're both great.
Yeah.
I love Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
I know it's probably not up there in like the grand scale of Zelda games, but
yeah, it seemed like the one that was, I mean, it's been said before, but it seemed like the one that was reacting to the fans wanting
serious
HD
Zelda.
Ocarina. Yeah, serious. Yeah, exactly. And not the kind of inventiveness of Wind Waker.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure it can be seen by some as the step back Zelda, but it's still a perfectly good one.
I mean, Wind Waker was a very cool conceit of having the islands and stuff in the sea, but it still is like, that works, but like, you want a big Hyrule. You want Breath of the Wild, like, obviously. Like, they couldn't technically do that on the GameCube, so it kind of made sense to have a giant flat sea with islands popping out of it, and they made that work really well, but, you kind of want a big Hyrule.
They got there, though.
Yeah, they got there. What was I doing? Oh, yeah, because as soon as you get the tech lab, it's like, okay, so that machine, if you want to get anything good like ancient armor, you have to feed it loads of ancient stuff. So it's like, how do I farm the stuff? I can't remember. And going to the field where there was a giant battle long ago.
Yeah,
like
just run around through all of those tons of wreckages and the occasional one that's alive.
But like, you need loads of, there's like springs and things, and you need gears, loads of gears.
Yeah,
and they seem to be the most least common ones.
So that's why you have to go to that labyrinth behind the tech lab.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. Does that have? Yeah, I suppose
also
that has
there's
loads of enemies, right? So
there's also two guardians on the beach down from the tech lab as well at the bottom of the cliff.
Oh yeah, because there's like an active one, annoyingly. Yeah, not a walking one, but an active turret one.
Yeah, there's a turret on the way up, and then there's two walkers down on the beach, and then obviously if you go to that labyrinth, there's that stupid room. Like, you have the labyrinth on top, and then you just have the big open room at the bottom that's just full of guardians.
Right.
But that's where you need the bloody armor.
Well, sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it's a large enough room that you can pick them off one at a time. That's the trick.
Yeah.
You use your stupid Hylian champion tunic so you can see the health bars so you know which ones are alive, and then very carefully filter them out.
Yeah, that's convenient. Yeah, that does work. I use that on the big field to spot the one or two guys that are alive using the tunic. Yeah,
I never thought of that.
I found one technique that I didn't know before, which is you can use Cryonist to any like old broken guardians on water to flip them over, and that gives you a bunch of stuff underneath.
Oh,
That's
really?
cool. Yeah, I mean, there aren't loads of those that are next to water that you can do it on, but the ones that you do,
that's technically the way you can glitch the game and get infinite guardian parts.
Oh, really?
You just keep doing it.
Well, there's one of those. I think it's one right at the start of the Great Plateau where there's a guardian corpse that's on a puddle, and if you use Cronus and it flips it over and the stuff comes out. But if instead of using Cronus you use some other weird physics jank to just like, you have to just like lift it up slightly, and then it gets to the point where the stuff drops out, but it continuously spawns.
Right.
So you just got like a fountain of ancient parts just coming out the bottom of this thing continuously.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
Like
There's probably quite a few
put an
glitches
Octorok under there or
world.
something.
Because I saw a stupid technique for farming like the dragon horn,
right?
Where like you can like the dragon that spawns in the lake in the jungle,
Yeah,
or whatever. There's like a little cave behind there, open to exactly where it spawns. And so if you put a fire there, you sleep until morning. That's exactly when it spawns. Then you do float up on the fire, draft. Shoot for the horn, and then float down and just sleep until morning again, over and over. And the horns that fall off, they stay there. They don't disappear if you go through time. So then you can just go and collect your giant pile of horns.
Is that one's convenient because that's the only one where it will still spawn if you're right next to it, because usually the dragons don't spawn if you're too close to the spawn point. But weirdly, one that comes out of the lake at the top of the jungle, that just doesn't apply. So you can just camp right next to it.
Right, so they don't appear for that day if you're too near. Oh, interesting. I wonder if that caught me out a few times, because I'm sure I tried something like that with the... Yeah,
when I was doing that, like, dragon harvesting legitimately, like when I was trying to get when I was trying to do that lightning dragon, but I was doing it on Lake Hillier with the bridge, where you could just, like, paraglide off the bridge to catch it.
It's the same dragon.
Same dragon, yeah. But when I was doing that, I was like, I was trying to use the campfire under the arch at the end of the bridge.
Yeah.
And then, like, run along the bridge as it started to spawn. But if with the timing on that one is like, if you start running too fast immediately after you spawn in the morning, you can actually cancel its spawn by being too close.
Huh.
So you have to you just wait a couple of minutes after you've loaded in and then start running down the bridge.
I need to, because the actual dragon tutorial is at the top of the big mountain in the east, isn't it? The Mount Lion. And now I've got the snow quill armor, but there's nothing really to prompt you to go up there apart from a few people talking about, oh, hey, the Zelda's spring or whatever is up there.
Yeah, it's another. And that bit of the map is doesn't really have much apart from that. It's just like the one big spiraling path that goes all the way up that mountain.
And there's like a Lionel at the base of the mountain, which is off-putting at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the spiral itself is kind of the clue, though, right? You just look at it and it's like, okay, well, that's a route.
See the dragon, right? That's the one time where that dragon is always there.
Oh, I can't remember. Does it freeze the day or something? So it's not.
No, I mean you can see it on top of the mountain. I think.
Mm.
Oh, I haven't actually spotted it in my playthrough.
It's not very visible because it's curled up right at the top and half overhanging where the shrine pool is.
Mm. Yep. So, freaking tons to do in Zelda, as always. Yeah, tons to revisit.
I may have ordered a copy of Age of Calamity.
Okay.
Something pushed me over the edge this week, and I was like, I'm having it. So hear more from Zach and I as we take that on.
Okay.
Enjoy your 25 frame per second fighting game.
Oh, at least. I'm sure it's going to run like garbage, but we had so much fun with the demo. I kind of don't care.
Yeah, it looks cool.
I mean, the massive guardian in that demo just spawns in 5 feet away from. If you get to more than 10 feet away from it, it just despawns. You can't see it.
Yeah,
it's really? It is ridiculous in spots, especially in co-op. That makes it much worse. But yeah, I think we'll go through it in co-op first.
Yes, clearly,
yeah.
Okay, I think that's going to be a podcast.
Hey.
Woohoo!
It's me, Chris Pratt.
Let's all do an audition for Mario.
He's so cool.
I'm Brooklyn Mario.
You've lost it again.
Yeah, I've lost it.
Hey, I'm Brooklyn Mario.
Hey, I've got a little bit of crust in my throat.
Hey, I'm walking here. Is that Brooklyn? No,
it's
Mama
Luigi.
Manhattan, isn't it?
Mama Luigi.
Pepe Sylvia.
Pasta the pasta.
Pasta the pasta.
Pasta me the pasta. That's I don't know.
Oh, man.
I'm Bob Hoskins.
This is Rob's amazing impression of Bob Hoskins, saying that he is Bob Hoskins.
I'm Bob Hoskins. Right, we got some videos on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. It's Happy Salad.
We finally finished Freelancer abruptly.
The conclusion of Freelancer.
Yeah.
Because that game ends abruptly.
Very, very exciting ending.
Yeah. Check it out. And we'll have some more videos coming up for you soon.
We do indeed. There's
and
2 in the
also-
hopper.
Yeah.
We're
so
actually
enjoy
sort of
those.
ahead because we got sort of behind. I don't quite know how that happened, but yeah, I've got two I can make.
Then there'll be another Saladcast in a couple of weeks. So join us for that. Until then, goodbye.
We'll know the last Smash character by then.
Yep.
Ooh.
Quite a lot.
Waluigi!
Better be Waluigi. All right, Kay, thanks, bye.